Hey guys. Here is part 7 of What If Naruto Had His Memories Sealed. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 38 Heavy Forecast. Hamiko entered the Hokage Tower with her usual serene smile on her face. She had a stack of papers in her arms, letting those around her know this was a business trip, but from the look on her face it was as if she were taking a nice morning stroll. As she neared Tsunade's office, she said good morning to the shinobi stationed inside as Tsunade's assistants, and the like before making her way to Tsunade's most trusted one. Hello, Shizune-san. I have an appointment with Hokage-sama this morning. Shizune gave her a smile. It's nice that you actually make appointments instead of just dropping in like Naruto-kun does. How he never drops in when she's busy, I'll never know. Hamiko let out a small giggle. Naruto-sama is good like that. He doesn't like being formal outside of missions though. May I enter? Yes, you can, Shizune said. Go right ahead. Hamiko bowed to Shizune and headed inside of Tsunade's office. The head of the female Kage looked up at her and gave her a smile. Hello, Hamiko. How are you today and what can I do for you? Hamiko bowed to Tsunade and placed the papers she had with her on the desk. I'm doing well, Hokage-sama. I came here today because I want to surprise Naruto-sama when he gets back. Tsunade looked at her curiously. Surprise him how? Naruto doesn't really like most surprises, seeing as how they tried to kill him. She looked at some of the papers Hamiko left on her desk. I assume you just came from the bank this morning. Yes, I did, Hamiko said. And he will like this surprise. Master has an excess amount of spare money due to his frequent higher-level missions, captured bounty of Akasuna no Sasori, and does not have to readily support me due to my work at the academy. He has a lot of money, and as such I suggest a move from his apartment to an actual home. I've been dealing with this on and off for almost a year now. Looking through more of the papers Hamiko carried in, Tsunade got her point. So I assume you're here because you've decided on something he would like and you're relaying this to me due to him being my shinobi. A nod from the elder blonde woman came from Hamiko. Yes, it should be something nice for Master to come home to after this mission he's currently on. Would you like to visit the one I've chosen after it is made official later today, Hokage-sama? Tsunade smiled at her. Certainly. You should come back around 6 in the evening. I'm sure he'll love it. With Naruto, Amegakure no Sato. Naruto had a dry look on his cloaked and covered face as he sat quietly on a passenger boat. Other than the man running the boat and the 5 other passengers aboard, Naruto only had one thought running through his mind. I hate the rain, I hate the rain, I hate the rain, I hate ... Shut up right now or I will start singing again. Kyubi growled in his head. Amegakure no Sato was surrounded by water created by the perpetual rainfall that took place in the village. Just outside of the flooded area lay a smattering of outlying villages, where Naruto boarded a boat intended to come into the main hidden village itself. The boat ride had lasted for around an hour with no canopy over top. Thus the only thing keeping Naruto from the elements was the cloak over his head that he was using to obscure his features, and it was bitterly cold outside as well. Sorry, Kyubi, Naruto thought to his demonic inmate, but rain is the precipitation I hate the most, and it's cold as hell too, making it worse. Maybe I should have tried taking the other way in. It might be drier than this. Fucking rain. I hate the rain, I hate the rain, I hate the rain . Ugh, sorry. Game face on Ningen, Kyubi advised. Forget about the weather. You'll be living in it until we're done here. You remember what to do once you get in, don't you? Naruto rolled his eyes. Of course I do. My part of the infiltration was all my plan anyway. It's totally foolproof. How about too foolproof? Fuck you. Naruto shot back. Me and Aerokyofu are golden. Once I get in, he'll find me. I have no idea how he's going to do that, but once we get in I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The Kyubi's laughter rang out in Naruto's head, confusing Naruto deeply. What's funny? Nothing's funny about this. Kyubi stopped laughing long enough to answer its Jinchuriki. You do remember what Danzo told you about basic infiltration in all of the noteworthy villages, don't you? Of course I do. Naruto thought testily. You don't forget stuff like that. Kyubi started laughing again. Then you would remember that Amegakure has a policy of security checks and surveillance to all visitors. Naruto wasn't getting it, so? I can deal with the surveillance, that's rookie stuff, and I don't have any weapons or anything conspicuous on me anyway. Who cares if they have security checks? There's nothing on me that could give me away. Kyubi chuckled a bit more. Okay then. I guess you're right. Yeah, those series of cavity searches should be no problem for a tough guy like you, right? Kyuubi could feel Naruto just lock up after that statement was uttered and let out more laughter. Naruto grit his teeth under his face cover as the sound of raindrops mixed with the laughter of his inner demon. I hate you so much. Elsewhere in Amegakure. In the tallest tower of Amegakure, a pair of ripple-pattern eyes peered through the darkness of the room they were in. Conan! The voice of pain called out. There are intruders of interest in Ame. Please locate and identify one of them for me. He will be around the western quadrant. If he is who I suspect him to be, you know what to do. A woman with blue hair and a paper flower in her hair, dressed in the Akatsuki robe, Conan walked out onto the ledge outside into the rain. As you wish, Pain-sama. With that, a pair of wings sprouted from her back as she jumped into the sky and took off in flight. After the presence of his female partner had vanished from view, Pain shut his eyes. And about this other presence? Another presence, and it feels so familiar. I hope you enjoy your return to Ame-sensei. Thank you for bringing me the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. And I hope you enjoyed being in the presence of God before your death. With Naruto. He had lived through the demeaning cavity searches that had awaited him after the boat had docked. There had been one right after everyone got off. There had been one once they had gotten inside the dock building. There had been another one right outside at the gate before they could actually get to town itself. After dealing with that, he decided to go on walkabout until Jiraiya found him somehow. There wasn't much he could do except start getting information as long as he didn't have any gear on him. Not even a lone shuriken rested on his person. He had never been so unarmed in the field in his entire life, and he had to say, it was rather hard keeping his cool around all of the Ame ninja inside of the posts waiting to search him. He had to keep his fingers from twitching towards his bladeless back, or his pouchless thigh. Despite the out-of-his-comfort-zone feel he had the entire time, once he got out to the streets he felt much more at home in his little espionage mission. Amegakure was a very industrialized village, more so than Konoha. There were elevators abound, cable cars all over carrying people between the tall buildings, tons of neon signs and the like. Most of the ninja he saw, instead of using kunai and shuriken as their primary long-range weapon, took to carrying umbrellas that would sprinkle someone in a deadly rain of sorts. Original. In addition to that, a lot of them wore oxygen tanks and face masks that would allow them to breathe underwater. The village itself was huge. The buildings were more narrow than Konoha's, but they were so much taller. Skyscrapers were abundant in the village, but even then there were so many of them. Still, infiltrating this village felt more comfortable than trying to do so in any of Orochimaru's bases. At least he had free rein to fight and run away if he needed to. It was going to be one hell of a challenge for anyone in Ame to corner him if he was discovered and forced to flee. There were tons of canals that were full to the brim with rainwater, and he could see younger ninja down in them. A lot of D-ranked missions in Ame probably had to do with how they dealt with all of the excess rain and flooding. Erokyofu better not be fucking around on the outskirt villages. Naruto had left Jiraiya to infiltrate Ame on his own, as both of them together would be too risky to attempt. Naruto would be heading through the front door, so to speak, while Jiraiya ensured Naruto that he had his own way of getting in inconspicuously. He left it at that and sent Naruto on his own way to get in, saying that if he didn't beat him there he would catch up soon enough. That was just one of the things they had spoken about before beginning their operation in earnest. Flashback, 1 day ago, just past Ames' border. Jiraiya looked at Naruto as they both trudged through the rain. You're very strong, Naruto. I'm very proud of you, I want you to know that. Naruto looked over at Jiraiya and returned his attention to walking. Don't say stuff like that, Erokyofu. You know it's bad luck to say that crap before we do things like this. Save it until after we leave this country and get somewhere safe. Jiraiya shook his head. No, I'm saying this now. You're one hell of a ninja kid. You're going to be a great Hokage whenever Tsunadeheim decides to cough up the hat to you. Root trained or not, I know so. And I've said it a million times, but I'm truly sorry about sealing you off when you were younger. Seeing the sincerity in the man's eyes, Naruto couldn't just tell him to stifle. It's alright. I forgave you a long time ago, you know that. What's wrong with you? Just thinking back to some old pupil's kid. Jiraiya gave Naruto a wide grin. I've got something I need to teach you once this mission is over. Something that I'm excited about. We'll talk about it more once we get out of this, alright? Naruto shrugged off Jiraiya's previous attitude with a grin of his own. Now that's more like it. End flashback. I saw the angel today, a nearby man said as Naruto took temporary refuge under an awning from the rain. I still can't believe that someone was able to take down Hanzo, but I guess he is God after all. Naruto frowned underneath his face mask. This guy killed the guy who trained me wanted to drain of his lifeblood with a spoon but never had the chance. And they call him God. S-rank superiority complex. I really don't want to meet this guy yet. Now where do I go to wait for Erokilfu the bar? No, that's too obvious. Naruto started walking around the village again, just seeming like a harmless tourist of sorts as he thought things out and took in the conversations of the people around him. All the citizens were talking about were the guy they called God and the person they referred to as his angel. The more he heard, the less he liked and the sooner he wanted to leave. But he had just gotten there, they hadn't even gotten to the crux of the mission yet, and he still had to find Jiraiya. Maybe after he had a blade or 20 on him he would feel less skittish over the whole matter, but until then he was cold, wet, hungry, alone, and unarmed, miles away from home, in the dead zone of the elemental nations. If anything happened he would have one hell of a breakout ahead of him, as if Orochimaru's hidden village was a rat's nest, then this village was a hill of fire ants. The people believed that this pain guy kept the village safe, that he was God among men, and there had to be some reason for that. Naruto wasn't buying it in the least, but if the guy ran Akatsuki, could beat a legend that inspired terror like Hanzo, and could get people to call him God, he had to have something that backed it up. It was alright. Just don't get caught. Simple. Be cool, be ice. What did they have on him? Nothing. Tons of people came into Ama looking like him. It was raining and cold as hell. Everyone was bundled up. When Naruto was sick of wandering around, he saw a sight that made him grin widely under his cover. A small building that he knew wasn't a regular part of Ama, no matter how well it looked like it belonged there. A cozy-looking tavern with lights on and the prices of cheap drinks out front. What kept Naruto from going in was that he knew exactly what this was, and seeing as how he was the only person on this particular street, it was almost show time. And he was not disappointed when the building turned into small toad, signifying the presence of the man he was looking for. Smooth Erokilfu, Naruto said. I'm going to assume you caught someone just now in there. Jiraiya appeared at Naruto's side, grinning. You know it, Gaki. How'd you like the cavity searches? He asked with an amused look on his face. Naruto gave him a look with the only thing visible being his piercing blue eyes. I hate you so much right now. The only thing stopping me from leaping out and kicking you in the balls right now is that I still need you. Don't give me that look, Jiraiya said before holding up a scroll. Here, I brought you your goodies. Naruto quickly took it from his grasp. Felt naked without your stuff, did you? You have no idea, Naruto replied. Alright, go shake down your captures, I'm going to change into something better. It's not like if I do my job right I'm going to be seen again, so it doesn't matter. A few hours later, Naruto waited for Jiraiya to return from interrogating his prisoners. He changed into the same stuff he had on for the Yuki no Kuni mission, only he kept his cloak over top due to the weather. He noticed the look on Jiraiya's face as he returned from getting his information and shared it all with Naruto. How this Pain character killed Hanzo in battle, how he eradicated anyone loyal to or anyone who had a relationship of any sort with Hanzo. So what did you do with the guy? Naruto asked after all of their cards had been laid out on the table. Jiraiya wiped the rainfall from his face. I sent him to Konoha. He wouldn't say anything more about Pain than what I told you, so hopefully they can work something more out of him. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya was good, but he wasn't an interrogation specialist. It was better to send him to people that could definitely coax the information from him. So now what's the plan? Where do you need me, Ero-senin? Jiraiya pointed up at a skyscraper. I need you to find me areas of potential interest. Do what you need to do. Find me anywhere that could have anything we need to know, Naruto. Send me periodic reports on your progress, don't be afraid to send a toad. With all of this water it should be easy enough for them to stay discreet. I'll be keeping my feet to the pavement for now. The two Konoha ninja looked at one another before Naruto took on a stone-like face and saluted Jiraiya before vanishing in a shunshin. Jiraiya watched as the after-trail of his shunshin dispersed. Good luck, Gaki. With that he went off on his own to dig up his own dirt. Well, someone in Amagakure was spoiling for a fight rather soon, or so the stockpiled weapons here and there inside of storehouses all over the village would attest to. No one inside of Ama seemed to be ready for any kind of war, but the kind of surplus that Naruto found was just too much for it to just be superfluous. It had been a few hours since he had left Jiraiya, and he actually had something to arouse some suspicion, so he figured then was as good a time as any to check in with his perverted sensei/godfather. Naruto had taken his place atop a skyscraper as he sat out for a short reprieve. It had been a while since he had to go under the radar like this. He forgot how much energy it expended staying hidden for so long. Good thing it was something you never forget how to do. Before Naruto took to biting his thumb to begin a summoning, he saw a figure in the sky not too much higher than he already was. As it flew around the area he frowned to himself. Damn it, this is too soon. He knew his cover was already blown by whoever this was. But if he could take this person out and go along his way, he might have been able to stay hidden. It didn't seem like this person had risen the alarm on his presence yet. That was their mistake. The last mistake they'll ever make, Naruto said to himself as his cloaked form stood straight up to address that he knew he was found out. The cold storm wind causing his cloak to flutter about eventually pushed the hood off of his head to reveal his blonde hair. He pulled the face mask connected to his shirt under his flak jacket down to reveal his whiskered cheeks. A series of projectiles flew at Naruto from the aerial attacker. Naruto had to say he was jealous of whoever it was. He had mastered his element, and he still couldn't fly. But for right then he had to stifle that thought and dodge before he was hit. Naruto moved out of the way of the attacks, and as one stuck itself into the roof he was standing on, he saw that it was a sheet of paper. Naruto touched the edge of it to reveal that it was razor sharp. That would have seriously injured him if it had hit him. He turned his attention back to his opponent, who had sent out an entire salvo of the paper shuriken for another attack. Naruto drew his sword and sliced through them, a long-range fighter like Deidara. He thought as he decided he was going to close the distance in this one even if it killed him. He'd be damned if he was going to let himself get picked apart from a distance this time around. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto was joined on top of the skyscraper by 10 copies of himself that had immediate orders to cover him while he tried to close in on his airborne enemy. He ran towards the end of the rooftop and jumped into the air at his opponent. Futon, Kaze Wakyakuru, Wind Release, Wind Burst. As he started to fall, his jutsu activated and the air bubbles underneath his feet burst, giving him a temporary platform with which he was able to spring at his opponent. Naruto swung his sword at the enemy, but missed wide and wound up sticking to the side of another building. From his up-close attack, he saw that he was fighting a woman in an Akatsuki robe. Yeah, he was in it now. She flew past him on wings made of paper. She fired paper shuriken at him. She certainly had a strange style of ninjutsu. His clones had begun to bombard her with weaponry of their own from the rooftop as he watched her navigate her way through the attack with her paper wings. How she was able to use paper in the rain he had no clue. Naruto crouched down, standing sideways on the wall, and pounced off hard, giving himself enough momentum to carry himself back to the roof with his clones, where he immediately began making hand seals. Raiton, Kaminari Shuriken, Lightning Release, Lightning Shuriken. The recent amount of weaponry in the air above the female Akatsuki member's head due to his clones missing began raining down lightning around her that she dodged. Naruto kneeled down in front of a wall of his Kagebunshin. Draw. All of them pulled out a Fuma Shuriken each. Aim. All of them drew their arms back to throw at the woman still dodging the lightning bolts raining down on her. Fire! The clones let loose the shuriken that prompted Naruto to begin his own hand seals. Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. The large, mid-air shuriken multiplied in flight, and went right for his enemy in a wall of steel. Naruto watched as the woman was shredded in mid-air with the vicious barrage of weapons before narrowing his eyes as the feeling of his clones that had formed a wall behind him being cut down fluttered through his mind. Naruto immediately leapt to his right with no time to spare, as all of his clones were vanquished with extreme prejudice by more deadly flying paper. He turned with his sword at the ready to see the woman standing in front of him on the same rooftop. Naruto spoke. You know, I thought for a second that I might have put you down with that last one, but that was just a clone the entire time, wasn't it? You're correct, she replied coolly as she slowly walked forward. I can assure you that the genuine article will not be as easy to defeat, Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I have a name, lady, and I know you know it, Naruto said as he readied himself for anything from her. I'm not going to ask you to leave me alone, or even to surrender because I know you won't. All I'm going to say is that you'd better be ready for me. Her eyes showed nothing but stoicism. I have a name too, Naruto Uzumaki. It is Konan. And I never underestimate my enemies. Doing so to you would make me an utter fool. She extended her hand as a sword of paper seemingly formed out of her sleeve right before she dashed forward. Naruto quickly blocked it, and took a retaliation swing that she dodged by jumping back and sending out a rush of paper shuriken at him. Naruto cut through all the ones that were immediately dangerous to him, leaving the rest to turn his cloak to tatters, exposing him to the elements fully. Naruto ripped off the rest of the cloak and threw it at Konan as a weapon of convenience. The remains of the tattered cloak were reduced to ribbons by Konan's paper, but while it still existed it provided enough of a blind spot for Naruto to get to Konan's left side, where he lashed out with a horizontal swing of his sword. He cut through a wall of paper that Konan haphazardly put up to stop him, and saw her form a massive paper airplane to take off with. Naruto sheathed his sword and grabbed on to the back of the plane just as she enabled it to take off from the rooftop, bringing him right along with her in her flight. The added unexpected weight of Naruto immediately caused problems for the flight as they were directed into a nosedive shortly after they left the roof. Conan tried pulling up, but it was too heavy to brute force upright. Naruto made a set of one-handed hand seals. Futon Repushu, wind release, gale palm. Naruto aimed the directional wind to turn the plane upright well enough that it brought them out of the dive. Naruto pulled himself up onto the plane, and his presence was answered with a sword slash aimed at his face that he leaned back to avoid as it almost cleaved off his nose. Naruto responded by letting off a punch at her that when it made contact made her body burst into paper and reform behind him, with an attempt to stab him through the body. Naruto rolled off the side of the paper airplane and pulled himself back up the other side with a kick at Conan that she blocked with a mass of paper. I thought you guys weren't supposed to kill me. Conan gave him a hard look. Don't be foolish. You know that you can survive that with little problems. I won't kill you, but when I'm done you'll wish you were. You will feel pain before your life ends, that I can promise you. Naruto smirked. Honey, until you've been tied to a chair at the age of 6 and emotionally conditioned en route, you don't know what pain is. Conan's eyes hardened at the sound of the name Root. But until then, as I said, you'll survive this. After saying that, Conan used the paper that made up the airplane and reformed her wings before flying off, leaving Naruto hurtling high speed through the air between the skyscrapers with nothing under him. Holy shit! You crazy bitch! Naruto screamed as he continued flying through the air. If I live through this in one piece, I swear to Kami I'm going to fuck you up! Naruto hurtled through the skyline of Ama until a building finally got in his way. Fuck! Slow down, slow down, slow down! Nothing Naruto had in his arsenal could change his trajectory, and he was moving too fast for him to use Futon, Kaze Wakyakuru to slow himself down or keep himself in the air, so all he could do was soften the impact enough to keep him from doing his best impression of a smashed insect. Futon Rasengan, wind release, Rasengan! Naruto made the two-handed, elementally charged Rasengan and brutally punched a hole into the building he was flying at, causing him to crash land inside of the building. Conan hovered at the entrance that Naruto had created high up in the building. A motionless Naruto was what she saw strewn out in the rubble in a hallway from his last-ditch effort to keep himself in the fight. You're not defeated yet, don't insult me by trying to play dead. You're probably a Kage Bunshin. Boom! The laid-out Naruto said lowly before an explosion filled the hallway and came back out through the hole, forcing Conan to fly higher to dodge the fireball made from the explosive note that was attached to the now incinerated Naruto. Conan was able to elevate a floor, however Naruto crashed through a window from above her, his clothes all beat up from crashing through a building wall, scratches all along his face from it as well, a one-tailed chakra cloak covering his body, and a Rasengan in his right hand. The attack hit Conan, took out one of her wings, and propelled them both downward towards the ground. Conan, luckily for her, hadn't been subjected to the violent jutsu for too long, letting her reform her wings rather quickly. Naruto was still close to her, however, and used the tail of his chakra cloak to grab her, pull her close, and latch onto her, keeping her from flying correctly. The direction of her awkward flight pattern led them to a canal where they skimmed the water before the actual impact of them hitting the surface occurred, throwing them apart forcefully. With Jiraiya, before Naruto and Conan's battle began. It had been hours since Jiraiya had heard anything from Naruto, and he had just come from speaking with his Ama contact, giving him his new orders for the time being. Jiraiya proceeded to go about his own through the shadows of Ama, looking for any sign of the kid as well as waiting for any news from him. During his search he heard a sound of something crashing and the sounds of people panicking in the streets around him. Jiraiya quickly found the area where the skyscraper was wrecked on what appeared to be the 15th floor or higher. Suddenly a massive fireball emerged from the hole and a glowing red figure dropped from a higher floor to hit someone floating in the air. He saw paper flutter from the person's falling body and knew only one person that had a jutsu anywhere near resembling that. Conan, is that you? The angel is in a fight? Who would be crazy enough to call the wrath of God and his angel after what he did to Hanzo? It doesn't matter, he won't be around long enough for it to matter anyway. Jiraiya grit his teeth. Damn it, Gaki! He muttered before moving towards where he saw them fall. He wasn't doing too badly from the looks of things, but things could change in a hurry. The Akatsuki always operated in twos, and while he seemed to be winning against the second member could attack him at any time. This Akatsuki thing is going to kill either him or me, I swear. Before he could get too far, a voice called him. I would say that your opinion is correct, but you don't need to be told that you're about to die, Jiraiya-sensei. Jiraiya saw a man standing on a pillar nearby staring at him. The man had orange hair tied back in a long ponytail, multiple piercings in his nose and all over his face, a slashed Amahide, and an Akatsuki cloak. His most relevant trait was a set of eyes with distinct ripple pattern eyes. Jiraiya stared at the man hard for a long while before finally speaking up. You've certainly changed a lot, but those eyes. You're Pain, aren't you, Nagato? The man did not respond. I guess you didn't grow up the way I wish you would. What happened to you? Pain narrowed his eyes at Jiraiya. You don't need to know. After all, you're just an outsider in my village. Jiraiya shook his head at the man. You've changed, Nagato. Pain made a few hand seals. For the better? Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. A large crustacean with body piercings of its own appeared in a puff of smoke. Suetun, Hamatsu Rappa, water release, violent bubble wave. The crustacean fired a wave of bubbles, much like the jutsu name indicated, that Jiraiya jumped away from against a wall. Who do you think you're dealing with? Jiraiya asked as he made his own hand seals. Ranjishigami no Jutsu, Wild Lion's main jutsu. His hair extended and wrapped around the summoned creature before even more of his hair grew into the shape of a lion's mouth that engulfed the crustacean and kept going towards Pain. He dodged the initial attack, but wound up getting wrapped up in Jiraiya's elongated hair. Jiraiya looked at the man caught in his grasp sadly. Nagato, there are so many things I want to ask you, like what happened to Yahiko. I know Konan is fighting Naruto right now. Yahiko, Pain said. I do remember someone by that name. He's been dead for a long time. Jiraiya almost cringed at his tone. What happened to you and Konan? Nothing happened. This is just another fight, Pain said calmly. Too many people have died here, and their pain is what helped me grow up. Even the most ignorant, innocent child will grow up eventually when they learn of true pain. It affects what they say, what they think, and they become real people. Jiraiya sneered at him. You think abandoning the love for your friends is the right way to grow up? Sensei, Pain said in the same monotone as before. You're still just a normal person. But me, living in the center of an infinite universe of pain, have grown into something much more. He closed his eyes. I have grown from a person into a god. And as God, what I say, what I think, becomes the law of God. But you're still just a regular person, Sensei. I don't expect you to understand what I'm telling you. Jiraiya's face twisted into a multitude of emotions. I can't believe you're the same child I met all those years ago. Things I couldn't comprehend as a human are crystal clear now that I am God. And now I have also noticed that there are things I can do as a god that I could never dream of as a human. Pain continued as Jiraiya listened. What are you trying to do here? Jiraiya asked. Pain had a simple answer to that. I'm going to put an end to this pathetic world and its endless wars. It will be an act of God. Jiraiya needed to know more. He was in front of what used to be his student, who was now the leader of Akatsuki. He could get the reasoning from the source itself. What are you after the Biju for? Why do you want Naruto? Pain quickly decided his reply. I suppose since you're going to die and since Konan will have the Kyuubi in our possession soon enough, I can tell you. Using all of the Biju, I will create a new forbidden jutsu. A technique that will eradicate an entire country in less than a second. The ultimate technique. A weapon of unprecedented power and scale. Yep, Naruto was right. S-rank power, S-rank ego, S-rank insanity. Jiraiya thought in response to this plan. How could you think something like that would stop war? You'll just make them bigger that way. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Pain shook his head at the Toad Sage. When countries quarrel with one another, what is the quickest way to end the dispute? Jiraiya snapped at him. Stop avoiding the question. Answer the question. How could you think of something that damn stupid? Pain ignored him. I will give my weapon to the warring nations. People who have weapons will inevitably use them. Again, Jiraiya figured that this plan was completely asinine. Yes, he was right. The weapon would be used eventually, but that would solve nothing. Whenever the weapon was used, whoever was left would immediately begin starting on something bigger, something more powerful, and when that was created they would use it in revenge. This wouldn't lead to a new world order, it would lead to no world period. Hundreds of millions of people will die from your idiot idea, and the survivors would be terrified. He was about to say and piss the fuck off, but he was cut off. All the people of the world will learn what true pain is, Pain said determinedly. My technique will breed fear and be the ultimate deterrent. The wars will cease quickly. Pain will quicken the world's growth as it did mine. Our world is still in its infancy, but the hand of God has come down to guide it down the path to maturity. Jiraiya felt like laughing. You want to help the world destroy itself to help it grow up faster, and you think that's your responsibility? I do, Pain admitted. I am a god of peace after all. Jiraiya let out a chuckle. You've turned into quite the comedian, Nagato. Pain kawaramied out of harm's way after finishing his explanation. Over here, Sensei. To me you're an insignificant child whose growth was stunted. Another summon? Jiraiya said as he saw Pain standing atop a massive chameleon. I have to admit, hearing a kid like you telling me that I and the world need to grow up. If Naruto were here he would be laughing his ass off right now. You say you're God, but I'm no longer a human either, he said as he made hand seals for his own summoning jutsu. The smoke amassed around him. Flooded by anger I cry tears of blood. The lone hermit of the legendary Sannin. The unstoppable toad sage of MT Mayaboku. The great Jiraiya, he said before falling face first onto the surface he had been standing on. You really haven't grown up at all, have you? Pain said disdainfully. Jiraiya stood up with a roar. Damn it, Gamaken-san, don't be moving all over the place when I'm getting my pose on. The massive toad wearing clothing much like Gamabunta except he had a magenta color, horns on his head, black markings going down his face, and he held two things, a shield in one hand and a Susumuda in the other. Google it, it's a pain in the ass to explain if you don't know what I'm talking about. You tripped over your own 2 feet, you clumsy idiot. Whatever, Jiraiya said as Pain and his massive chameleon came charging forward. I'll have to get serious right from the start here. I'll have to use Sage Mode for this one. Gamaken looked up at the summoner on his head in shock. What? Are you serious? You're going to dash? Yep, Jiraiya said. I'm summoning the 2 great sage toads. I'll need you to buy me some time to set this up, Ken-san. Gamaken nodded. You've got it, Jiraiya. I'm pretty weak, but I'll give you my best. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Again with the "you're weak" crap. You're not weak and you're going to show this bastard that right now. Naruto vs. Conan. Naruto pulled himself out of the canal onto some debris that had gotten caught on something, keeping it in place. We've got a mission to infiltrate Amegaki. You should be right in your element. You might even meet a cute young lady you like there with your track record, Naruto said, mimicking Jiraiya, his voice still rather gravelly from using the Kyuubi's chakra. Yeah, I met a lady alright. And she's kicking my ass, you stupid perverted toad sage. Naruto stood straight up to see Conan fly directly out of the water, her paper wings being soaked, not hampering her ability in the slightest. That really hurt, Naruto growled. Duh, that's why I did it. You dropped me out of the air from at least 150 feet. That would have hurt. Pain-sama knows that Jiraiya-sensei is here, Conan said. He's probably dealing with him as we speak. You have no hope of him bailing you out and saving you. Who says I need Ero-sennin to save me from you? Naruto questioned with barbs in his voice before the important part of that statement hit him. Did you just say Jiraiya-sensei? Conan nodded and tilted her head. Naruto believed that was conveying her amusement at his lack of knowledge on the topic. Yes. He was our sensei a long time ago. Did he not tell you? Naruto stood at the ready, but he had questions that he wanted answered. When? All I know is that he trained Minato Namikaze and that was it before me. Conan nodded again. That was after he trained us. We were trained during the Second Great Ninja War, a long time before you were born. Wow, Naruto said. So that would make you like 40 or something. You're really hot for being 40. He looked at her wondering what she looked like under that Akatsuki robe. If we weren't fighting right now I would probably be hitting on you. Age doesn't mean anything to a demon or a ninja ninjen, Kyuubi said offhandedly. Shut the fuck up. I'm fighting here. If you aren't going to tell me to dodge something that's trying to kill me, keep it to yourself until the fight is over. Naruto thought to Kyuubi as he couldn't see any inclination of emotion on Conan's face, but he could sense the killing intent from him trying to guess her age/hitting on her. How did he train you? Why? Conan's temper died down as she decided to explain. We were war orphans. Ame was constantly used as a battlefield between the larger nations during their conflicts and our families were taken from us. Jiraiya-sensei taught us ninja arts in order to give us a chance to defend ourselves and survive. Me, Nagato, and Yahiko. We wanted to bring peace to Ame. But Hanzo and Danzo. Wait, Naruto said. What about Danzo Jiji? What happened? Conan's eyes hardened. Hanzo aligned with him and his route to destroy our group that wanted to bring peace to Ame. He killed Yahiko, but Naga Pain killed them all and saved me. And there it was. That was why Danzo hated Hanzo, that was why he always said to stay out of Ame. Hanzo ended up getting his troops slaughtered by this Pain, but Naruto knew why Danzo decided to ally with him for that purpose. Bringing peace to Ame would take away an important buffer nation that no matter what would have kept enemies at bay who tried passing through it attack Konoha during war times. Danzo could have backed Conan and Pain Air. Nagato though. It would have ended better. His root were killed anyway when he sided with Hanzo, and if he had supported them instead, guerrilla style, he could have kept his men alive and maybe stopped all of this from happening. But hindsight was 20/20. Naruto wasn't Danzo and Kami he didn't want to be. What was done, and it was his problem now. Conan continued to speak. Pain-sama will bring peace to the world, and you are a vital key to that peace, as well as its greatest thorn in its side. You won't be any longer after this Naruto Uzumaki. Shikigami no Mai, Dance of the Shikigami. Conan sent out a rush of innumerable papers at Naruto that started to engulf his body. His chakra cloak fought them off at first, but eventually they surrounded him and covered his body entirely. Now you'll remain there until you pass out from lack of oxygen. It is all over. Futon, Shinkugigyo, Wind Release, Vacuum Sphere. The paper encased Naruto audibly inhaled deeply and exhaled, causing several bullets of air to fly from Naruto's body and cut through Conan's paper, giving him enough room to Kawarimi his way out. Naruto rushed at Conan, now sporting two tails on his cloak. Thank you, Danzo Gigi. The only damn jutsu you have that I can use from your training. Conan heard him thank Danzo as rage flitted across her face for the first time. You would thank that monster? She said loudly as they launched a seemingly endless stream of her paper at the Jinchuriki. The power of her paper hit him full on and drove him back into the water, moving the water aside as it pushed him towards the depths. You're rude too. I was told that you feel no emotions, no pain. We'll see about that, she said as she began making hand seals. One man's monster is another man's hero. Aski Wagakure. Naruto roared as he exploded from the water at Conan. And I do feel pain and emotion, he never broke me like the rest. He saw her making hand seals and noticed that some of the paper that had stuck to his body were explosive tags. He flared his chakra and got them off of his body just in time for them to explode. Conan watched the fireball and saw Naruto get thrown back into the water coldly. No matter how strong or fast you are in that form, no one can outrun an explosion. The water bubbled for a moment before a large red chakra claw reached up out of the water and grabbed Conan. She saw the paper that she coated her body with burning through from the intensity of Naruto's chakra, as she saw three tails swirling about when he surfaced again. Naruto whipped her body about violently before throwing her as hard as he could with his chakra claw. Conan somehow was able to muster even more paper and create more wings for herself to fly herself out of harm's way. He's a very powerful ninja. Even without the Kyuubi, but with it his strength is overwhelming. I need to play this right. I won't be able to flat out overpower him, or even outlast him as he is. I just have to hold out long enough for my plan to work. I can't hit this bitch Kyuubi. She's too methodical for me. She'll just fly away and try to pick me apart from afar. Naruto roared to the demon inhabiting his mind. You aren't anywhere near Konoha Kit. There is one thing you haven't tried yet. How many tails can you use? Kyuubi asked calmly as if it had a plan. I can barely reach 4, you know that. Naruto thought to Kyuubi as Conan gained altitude and took off through the village. She's handling 3 pretty well so far and I can't grab her. Once I lose control at 4 she can keep picking me apart until I raise Ahmed to the ground. I don't want to do that though. 4 tails, eh? The last time you used what I have in mind you only had 2 at your disposal. You'll be twice as well off now once you activate it, Kyuubi said with a vulpine grin on its destructive face. Naruto almost froze as he used his tails to swing himself along the skyscrapers through the village in pursuit of Conan. You're telling me to use the trigger, aren't you? The last time I did that I cracked every bone in my body when I turned it off. I had it on for too long. Kyuubi had an answer to that. You're an idiot. Then don't turn it off until you kill the paper-using woman and her partner, or at least until you can be protected by Jiraiya. It's that simple. Once you activate it she won't last long. You know this. Naruto couldn't respond to that. With 2 tails the only thing that kept him from slaughtering Kimimaro all those years ago was that he couldn't generate enough force to get past his unbelievably tough Shikatsumiyaku Kekii Genkai bones to anything vital. He doubted that Conan could take an Imari the way Kimimaro did. That guy was a killing machine. A pity he died really. But the point was, if she was buying time, he would let her. He needed the time too. With that in mind, Naruto began climbing the skyscraper he was currently attached to, trying to reach the top as fast as he could. From this point forward for him, this fight wasn't about precision any longer. Conan was far more precise in combat than he knew he could be in a head-to-head conflict. The only other option was overwhelming force, and Naruto had yet to meet anyone that could match him when he decided to cut loose, and he doubted he would today. Naruto reached the top of the skyscraper and saw Conan flying about, keeping far out of his range. Naruto simply stood still, tails swinging about, trying to will out his 4th tail, knowing how much it would hurt and how much damage it would do to his body. Just keep flying around. I've got nothing but time, bitch. His red eyes rested firmly on her aerial form as he focused on drawing the rest of his power out. Jiraiya versus Pain. Pain's chameleon disappeared from sight, alerting Jiraiya and Gamaken. He's gone! How in the hell did he find this kind of summon? He put that question elsewhere for the time being. Since he's disappeared, we can only use that barrier jutsu of ours to find him. Gamaken was sweating. Yeah, this won't be an easy battle. Pain knew what he was doing as Jiraiya used the jutsu to extend his awareness to sense Pain's presence. That jutsu will detect any slight movement of his opponent. He suddenly summoned a giant three-headed dog and sent it at Jiraiya and Gamaken. The large toad was forced to dodge by jumping up and grabbing onto an elevated position. Jiraiya looked down to locate their enemy that was now riding a five-headed dog that was still coming at them. The more they attack, the more appear. What are these? Little dogs with high growth rates? Damn, they split up! He shouted as that indeed did happen. They split off from the main dog and launched at Gamaken, who used his massive weapon to bat them away. However, he missed one that knocked him off of the skyscraper. While in midair, a giant drill-beaked bird came at Gamaken, who lifted his shield to block. It kept him from taking immediate damage, but he ended up slamming into the ground from the air, cracking the ground. Jiraiya stood on his summon's chest. Whenever I plan to attack, he hides himself. This is seriously weird. Jiraiya thought up a strategy, as he was currently not going to last long enough as he was. He's supposed to have all 6 elements with the Rinnegan, but why is he only using summons to fight? A massive ox rushed at him and Gamaken. Gamaken, you can return home now, I'm ready! Gamaken returned to the mountain of the toads just as the ox plowed Jiraiya into a wall, kicking up a cloud of smoke. However, it ended up with the ox being thrown away as if it were nothing. Why do you always summon us in places like this? No wonder Gamabunta is always angry, an elderly voice said from Jiraiya's hole in the wall. I don't say that, Ma, Jiraiya-chan was forced to do this, another elderly voice said from inside of the hole. Sorry for summoning you both here, Fukasaku-sama, Shima-sama, Jiraiya said apologetically. Shima spoke again. But brat, didn't you always say this form of yours chases away girls? That's why you hated using it. Jiraiya chuckled. Heh, there's no choice but for me to just deal with it. I am fighting an opponent with the Rinnegan after all, so, let's go. Jiraiya's form could be seen from the shadows of the hole in the wall with 2 small toads on both of his shoulders. Chapter 39, Violence Parade in the Downpour. Fukasaku sighed. You really need to learn how to use Sage Mode on your own, Jiraiya-chan. Yeah? Jiraiya said as he emerged from the shadows of the hole in the wall. You know, I wish I could, but I'm still just a tadpole compared to you two. Jiraiya now had a larger, more bulbous nose with warts. He now had a goatee, the lines on his face were far thicker, his eyes were toad-like, and dash. Fukasaku looked around. So where's this guy with the Rinnegan now? I don't see nobody. Shima shook her head. Maybe our sight is failing us in our old age. Jiraiya kept his eyes peeled around himself to keep watch for an attack from the still undetectable Pain. It's not your fault. He's hiding inside of a summon of his that can blend in with the surroundings, more or less making itself invisible. Shima looked at Jiraiya oddly. You mean like a chameleon or something? The human in the odd team spoke. I've already put up a detection barrier with Gamaken, but ... Shima cut him off and made a hand seal. That ain't gonna get us nowhere. If you're looking for a living creature, we'll find it in no time. Don't strain yourself, Ma, you'll give yourself more wrinkles. Fukasaku cracked, getting an angered growl out of the female toad. By the way, Jiraiya-chan, I realize that you need us because this guy is so tough, but why are you fighting him in the first place? Jiraiya shrugged. Well, he's a former student of mine. Fukasaku looked at Jiraiya in shock. Well, it obviously ain't the Uzumaki boy or you'd be up the wall right now. Which means ... His eyes widened in realization. He's the destined child? Shima asked incredulously. Then why are you fighting him? Jiraiya didn't rightly know how to respond to that. Unfortunately, he didn't grow up to be the man I hoped he'd become. Plus, I'd heard rumors that he died and convinced myself that this Pain couldn't possibly be my student. Fukasaku shook it off rather quickly. Well, whatever the case, if he ain't turned out right, we gotta kill him. Shima scoffed. That prophecy was just a senile old fart rambling on and on, just like always. Anyways, enough of that, let's get him. Shima stuck her tongue out. At the tip of it appeared to be a face with sharp teeth that seemed to be looking around before pointing in a general direction. Found him. The tongue stretched and shot out before wrapping around what seemed to be air. Gotcha! The tongue started excreting a corrosive chemical that exposed Pain's chameleon as it slammed it into the ground. Pa! Fukasaku's tongue leapt out of his mouth with speed and force and was hard enough to cut through the pipes along the wall, the chameleon itself, and the ground beneath it. The chameleon dispelled in a puff of smoke. So that's the Rinnegan. They're definitely the eyes that the legends described. What a wretched sight. So he's the destined child. Jiraiya nodded as Pain clapped his hands together. Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning Jutsu! In a puff of smoke, 2 more men kneeled down on opposite sides of Pain. One of them was large and bulky, with orange hair tied into a short ponytail. The other one was a tall, slender man with long orange hair. They both had multiple piercings all over their faces and wore scratched-out Amahaidiatesh along with the Akatsuki cloak. Shima looked on determinedly. This is the one that will cause the destruction of the world. Jiraiya's face reflected the emotion on the faces of the 2 toads on his shoulders. Yes, and it's my duty as his teacher to stop him here. Naruto vs. Conan. The rain had long since stopped, and Naruto simply stared at Conan while sitting on the roof almost like a fox as she continued to fly about the skies. At first she tried minor attacks with paper weaponry, but Naruto's 3-tailed cloak kept him protected while he gathered power for his 4th tail and the use of the kitsune trigger. Eventually he got sick of just sitting and waiting and decided to take some target practice, focusing wind chakra at the ends of his tails and throwing them out at Conan in an attempt to shoot her down and wear her out before he finished gathering power. What is he doing? Conan asked herself as she navigated her way around Naruto's ranged attacks. The Kyuubi is supposed to be a being of pure malice and anger. There should be no way that he can bear holding back and keeping from fervently pursuing me while using its chakra. But he's just sitting there waiting. He's playing right into the hands of my plan, but I can't help but feel a sense of foreboding over this. How do you feel, Kit? Kyuubi asked Naruto as he continued forcing more chakra through Naruto's system gradually so that when the actual 4th tail took form Naruto didn't lose immediate control and blow the entire game plan to hell. Good and pissed. And don't give me that shit about how it's supposed to feel like that, I already know that. Naruto grumbled to the demon in his mind as he shakily took the soldier pills in his supply pouch and popped them all at once. Don't tell me when the tail is going to manifest. If you tell me my control will slip and then instead of the control precise force the trigger will give me, I'll be all berserk and reckless. Can do, punk, Kyuubi said, focusing on steadily generating more and more power. Give that bitch hell. I'm not going to have my container be taken down here by some lady that throws paper. I still have to eat you and gain my freedom. I'd rather not get pulled out of your body just to be used for something else. Paper rose from all sides of the skyscraper Naruto was currently seated upon, so much that it was easily blocking his sight of Conan. Mixed in with normal papers were clearly a lot of explosive notes. Conan looked at the dome of paper and explosive notes that she had built up around Naruto. Let's see if you're really as powerful as your Biju would make you out to be. She made a hand seal and had the paper swirl all around Naruto, edging ever closer to the Jinchuriki. My ass, I'm letting her blow all of those up on me. Naruto angrily thought to himself before letting out a massive roar that unleashed a shockwave of his chakra in all directions, blowing all of the paper and hidden explosive notes away from himself, scattering them all over the skies. Conan looked on in shock as the papers flew all about. In addition to floating in the air, many of them stuck to other buildings nearby. She gasped in horror when she realized that she had activated the explosive notes when she sent them at Naruto in the storm to confuse him. In a matter of moments, explosions rocked buildings all around, sending flaming debris falling from the upper levels of the village to the city streets below, where the citizens had no idea what had happened and were not prepared for the dangerous repercussions of Naruto and Conan's battle. Conan looked down in abject horror at what had just happened, and taking her eye off the ball would cost her when Naruto fired another ball of wind chakra from his tail that hit her head on, pulverizing her paper wings and sending her, luckily for her, flying onto the top of another building. Conan stood up and heard the efforts of the people below attempting to help those injured from the last move of the battle and the attempts of those trying to evacuate the civilians from the area before even more happened that could endanger them. She glared over at the glowing red figure of Naruto, and even at the long distance the two stood at, she knew he was glaring right back at her with his red eyes. Conan clenched her fists and shouted across the area at Naruto. This is what we're trying to prevent. This senseless destruction, can't you see that? Once we take the Kyuubi from you and all of the other Biju from their Jinchuriki, we can begin to guide the world towards peace by showing them the futility of war. Naruto stayed silent until he shouted, his gravely, increasingly demonic voice penetrating her ears. I'm a weapon, plain and simple. No matter why I was placed with the Kyuubi, no matter why the Yondaime Hokage did it, after it was done it was all on me to be Konoha's protector, and to protect myself from people like you that would use the Kyuubi's power in a more destructive way than I would. Since I knew what a shinobi was, I knew what my job was, and the knowledge of the Kyuubi only made the point of what I was supposed to be even clearer. You're a seed of war, Conan said. You were born and immediately placed with your demon. You are simply destruction incarnate. You don't understand, you'll never understand. Naruto bared his sharpened teeth. You're right, I don't understand you, stupid bitch. Having a group like Akatsuki pointing weapons of total destruction at everyone and maintaining a peace that way isn't peace at all, it's a proxy truce. It's no different whatsoever than the way things are now. It's not real. Conan's face showed no inflection of taking in Naruto's words. Then we will make them understand that the only peace that will work without doubt is the peace that will be orchestrated by Pain-sama. Naruto growled and felt himself losing control of the Kyuubi's power. This came right before the feeling of his own skin burning off of his body occurred. It took everything Naruto had to not drop his concentration when his body was engulfed in the intense chakra. Conan let herself smirk. A berserk Jinchuriki is easier to bring down than one attempting to fight like a shinobi. He has fallen right into the first step of my trap. Naruto then lifted his head to the heavens and let out a deafening roar that shook everyone within earshot to their core. If they hadn't been brought to their knees by the oppressive aura of the Kyuubi beforehand, it was an afterthought at this point. With the last of his free will, Naruto inhaled deeply, drawing in the chakra from his body, revealing raw, red skin from the Kyuubi's chakra burning him. After inhaling all of the chakra, Naruto painfully swallowed it all and fell to the ground, writhing in pain at what he had done to himself. I hate doing this! Naruto shouted as more screams of pain followed. What is he doing? Conan asked herself until she remembered Zetsu's report on his battle with Orochimaru's underling Kimimaro Kaguya all those years ago. No! She quickly fashioned herself a pair of paper wings and flew at Naruto in an effort to stop him as she saw his body undergoing a transformation. Just before she could reach him with a paper sword in her grip, she was thrown back by a flood of chakra erupting from Naruto's body that caved in the roof of the building he had been on. Conan righted herself in the air as the dust and debris from Naruto's finished transformation billowed from the building he had destroyed the top few floors of upon completing his preparations. Some of the wrecked buildings shifted around as Naruto stood back up to reveal his form to Conan. Naruto was sizably bigger. He was just as big, if not bigger, in stature and size than Jiraiya. That was the least noticeable thing about him at the moment. Red fur had grown all over his body. The appearance of his head became that of a fox with glowing red eyes. His hands grew longer claws than usual in his Jinchuriki cloak. His spine pushed down out of his skin and pants, and instead of splitting into two tails the way it did the last time, it split into four tails that grew skin, muscle, nerves, and fur over them. Naruto was panting heavily following his transformation before speaking in a deep, warped voice. Gaara never had to tear his own body apart to use his best Jinchuriki powers. Yugi-chan never had to do it either, but nothing can ever be simple or straightforward for me, can it? He said disdainfully before looking at Conan, who was staring at him in shock. Sorry to keep you waiting, you must have been bored. Conan got over Naruto's new appearance rather quickly. So you have full control over the Kyuubi? That is very impressive. I only know of 2 other Jinchuriki with that amount of control over their Biju. She thinks this is full control? Naruto thought to himself, this isn't even close. Can't she count the tails? This is just a bastardized excuse of partial control because I can't go past 4 tails. How much of this form does she know about? Her info must be shoddy. Well, it was shoddy. Zetsu had been watching his fight with Kimimaro right until Naruto fired the Imari, when he hightailed it out of dodge to keep from being blown to burnt and crispy bits. Seeing an Imari must have been all he needed to see to be able to report back that Naruto had full control. His defeat of Sasori almost an entire year later must have been enough to keep that mindset amongst Akatsuki. Naruto let out a snort at Conan's comment and took a few steps back before running forward, picking up speed, and launched himself through the air at Conan. Getting over the shock of seeing a humanoid fox flying through the air at her, she had seen stranger things in her time. Conan took a higher position, letting Naruto miss her with his attack and land feet first on a wall. Are you going to actually try anything, or are you just going to keep running? He asked. Naruto tilted his head to the side in a curious manner when she didn't answer. You're waiting for something. Of course she had to be. She wasn't actively engaging him the way she had been before he started drawing on more and more of the Kyuubi's chakra. They were in Amigakure, their home base, so there had to be something here that could handle a Jinchuriki like him, and that's what she was waiting on. Pain won the civil war. Everyone here in the village was with them. When it really came down to it, Naruto wasn't just fighting Conan. If it was really put out in front of him to see, he was fighting everyone in the village. They had to know something or someone was attacking them after what had been going on. So you finally get it, Conan said when she could make out a look of realization on Naruto's face. I don't know what possessed you to come here, but we knew you were here the second you walked into the rain upon your arrival. You walked right into our hands. Pain-sama controls the ninja of this village. Right now, preparations are being made to restrict your demon's influence and power. They will be complete soon. You cannot defeat an entire village on your own, simply surrender. Naruto began letting out loud barking laughs that confused Conan. You idiots! I'm a Jinchuriki. Has Ame ever even had one from any village attempt anything against them before, let alone the fact that I hold the strongest one of all? Danzojiji trained me from the age of 4. Naruto let his body drop from the side of the skyscraper and fell to the ground below, using his tails to slow his descent. He narrowed his eyes once he neared the ground and found that there were multiple smatterings of Ame ninja preparing to head up multiple skyscrapers in an attempt to overwhelm him. Naruto's body hit the ground with a resounding crash, cracking the earth below him and getting everyone's full attention. He lifted his head and saw all of them with weapons drawn, debating over attacking him or running away until one man cried out, "Capture the Jinchuriki alive! For Pain-sama's ambition! It is the will of God!" At hearing those words, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle to himself. The Kyuubi had to, as well as he was intently watching Naruto's battle. The Amegakure ninja had to take him in alive, and they were apparently fanatical enough to follow Pain's orders to the letter because he was God and they would not ruin their God's plans even at the cost of their own lives, because they were working for something greater than themselves. Naruto didn't have that kind of restriction. He let out a massive roar that threw all of the inspired Ame shinobi backwards. Threw them down the streets, threw them through open shops and stands, threw them through window, threw them against the walls themselves. Those were the least lucky of them all. The impact of their heads against the sturdy material never stood a chance. Naruto looked up at Konan, who was flying around, low altitude, and Naruto had a new strategy. Forget the fight. He gave her an even stare after seeing those that were still alive from his first attack getting back up shakily. This is what you wanted the Jinchuriki for, right? Let's see how much of this you can take, and we'll see if your god will save you and these ninja from me. Naruto looked at his razor-sharp claws and began running through the Ame shinobi that hadn't yet recovered enough to pose a threat to him in battle. The better ninja were able to recover faster while Naruto had been cutting a path through their comrades, but the level of skill in Ame, despite their god of a leader, was not up to par when compared to Konoha ninja. Naruto thought to himself while he grabbed the arm of a man that tried to stab him with his kunai when he got too close and gripped it tightly, hearing the man yell out once he felt Naruto's enhanced strength break the bones. Naruto spun around and used the man to smash into 2 more shinobi that had come to the man's aid. They must have been genin. Naruto threw the man at another advancing group of Ame ninja. He had more trouble before when he tried this in one of Orochimaru's bases, and there were more ninja here. He saw Konan attempt to work her paper into the overall battle, but channeling some wind chakra to his tail and whipping them around kicked up a small whirlwind that served a double purpose of knocking her troublesome paper techniques away and disorienting the troops around him. Konan grit her teeth at the scene. His wind element is the natural weakness of my paper. This is not good. Fighting those damned spiders in the forest of death may have sucked at the time, but it was amazingly good practice for this. Naruto thought to himself as he backhand swept an opponent's feet from under him before delivering a crushing side kick that sent the man back first into a post, clearly breaking his back. A torrent of water from an attempted enemy jutsu filled the street and almost crashed headlong into him, but he jumped into the air and entered a building by obliterating a window with his body. He's inside! Trap him now! A man cried out as more than a dozen others ran inside the building. Naruto entered to bring him down. The streets around the building were flooded with Ame ninja surrounding the building awaiting any sign of Naruto so that they could complete the capture or cut off his retreat. Konan hovered in the air around the building, thinking of any possible way to get to Naruto and bring him down. She was not going to fail. This was the most important step in their plan, and she wasn't going to let Naruto stand in the way of the peace they had been working so hard to bring. Jiraiya versus Pain. Fukasaku got a good look at the men that Pain had summoned to his side and thought that his old age was really beginning to get to him. How can there possibly be 3 people with the Rinnegan? He asked. It was true. All of the men, in addition to their attire and battle, had in common the distinctly patterned eyes of the legendary Kekkai Genkai. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. There has to be some trick to this jutsu. Jiraiya smirked confidently. Alright, time for me to really get started. Prepare for the full-on Sage Mode pre-fight ritual. Jiraiya stood in a grand gesture with the 2 toads still atop his shoulders. Prepare for the force of my almighty ninjutsu, backed with the ultimate senjutsu. Behold the brilliant glow of my angelic halo. The gallant Jiraiya dash. Both Shima and Fukasaku punched Jiraiya in the face to get him to stop. Stop yelling in my ear, damn it! Jiraiya snapped in anger. Why the hell does someone always have to ruin my poses? Jiraiya sighed in resignation before rushing forward and throwing a kick that nailed the long-haired man in the face and sent him crashing into a wall. Very nice, sensei, Pain said. The debris generated by Jiraiya kicking the one man into the wall injured his eyes. I know, Jiraiya said. I'm the one that did it after all. Jiraiya, Shima, and Fukasaku all inhaled deeply before exhaling at the same time to form their attack. Senpu, Gomen, Sage Art, Bath of Boiling Oil. Jiraiya released a massive amount of oil that was ignited by a fire jutsu from Shima. The flames were fanned and heated by a wind jutsu from Fukasaku, sending a burning wave of oil at Pain and the other two. The large man with Pain jumped in front and absorbed the attack, leaving himself and Pain unharmed by Jiraiya's attempted collaboration jutsu. Jiraiya kicked off his getter, revealing his now webbed feet to go with his webbed hands. Then let's try this. Jiraiya launched himself at Pain and the man protecting him from harm. In one hand, Jiraiya formed a massive Rasengan twice as large as his own body. Cho Odama Rasengan, Super Great Ball Spiraling Sphere. A barrier formed around the large man's body right before Jiraiya's massive Rasengan made contact and began to shrink as the chakra was drained from it. Jiraiya looked at it in shock. He can absorb that just like he did with the oil? The injured man with long hair attacked Jiraiya from behind, prompting Jiraiya to kawarimi to safety and position himself behind the attacking man who he launched a punch at. A punch that was caught and blocked. No way! He can't even see my attacks with his wounds and he still dash? Fukasaku dropped a smoke bomb, shrouding them in smoke and obscuring the vision of the combatants. Jiraiya appeared behind Pain, kneeled down. Senpu, Kibari Samban, Sage Art, Hair Needle Barrage! Jiraiya fired a massive amount of hair needles at a continuous rate, set on turning Pain into a pincushion. Pain backed up to get himself some room and quickly summoned a massive panda to block Jiraiya's attack and take all of the damage. Jiraiya had come in from his blind side and still was unable to land a blow. How is he doing that? They can form such near-perfect defenses without even speaking or making eye contact. That was my fastest and most ranged attack, and even then he had it all worked out without even seeing me move. Fukasaku spoke up. Them guys ain't just regular old clones, eh? Shima was next to talk. That's what you meant by saying that there was some trick to at Jiraiya-chan? Did you notice it yet? Fukasaku said, getting a puzzled response out of Jiraiya. When we got behind that guy earlier, we were in his blind spot. The whole time the other guys were watching very carefully. They didn't make a sound, didn't look at each other, didn't look like they gave off any signal at all. Don't you see, Jiraiya-chan, it's the eyes. If all three of them are watching the same target, then all three see the target from all three different points of view, so that's it. Jiraiya said, finally getting the gist of what the older toad was trying to say. If I can't get a surprise attack off with my ninjutsu, then at this rate even with Sage Mode these guys will kill me. They're that strong and it's 3-on-1. I need to find Naruto. Jiraiya-chan, we should retreat for now, Fukasaku said quietly. Jiraiya let out a grunt of understanding before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Pain stood still for a moment before speaking. He's trying to hide in the pipes. Jiraiya was beating a hasty escape through the pipeline of Ame. Damn it, even if one of them actually is Nagato, there's no way that three different people all have the Rinnegan. What does this all mean? Which one of them is the real Pain? And what is he? Fukasaku tried to give Jiraiya a look of reassurance. I don't know yet. But give me a little more time and I'll have this all figured out. All three of those boys share the same field of vision, they can see from the same vantage point, that's one of their powers. So what? Shima said. What does that even do for him anyway? Well, basically, Fukasaku started. It's like sitting in a security booth and watching video from 3 different cameras. You can see everything the cameras see at once. So if one of them could see the target, the other one could see it as well, even if it ain't directly in their line of sight. That's how they're attacking and defending with perfect timing. The old toad shook his head. That's 3 times the field of vision of a normal person, and unlike the Byakugan, they can cover each other's blind spots without forming seals or using chakra. That's one hell of a combination. Jiraiya shrugged. Well then I guess we have to split them up. I know I can win 1-on-1, maybe I can get Naruto to handle the rest if I can find him. That is, if he was able to beat Konan and is still in fighting shape. But even with help, with those eyes he would be prepared for a counter to a strategy like that, and he is the leader of Akatsuki. He wouldn't have even undertook this venture in the first place if he didn't truly believe he had the power to do battle with the Kyuubi, or at least its Jinchuriki. He let out a sigh as he continued to retreat. Anyway, Taijutsu is out, and the fat one absorbs ninjutsu. Then all you got left is Genjutsu, Fukasaku commented. Meh, Jiraiya said distastefully. I hate Genjutsu as much as Naruto does himself. I've never been much of a user. But on the other hand, you too. Fukasaku spoke thoughtfully. If he really was your old pupil, he would know you don't use Genjutsu. That could be a major advantage. Shima suddenly yelled abruptly. No way! I ain't having none of it! What? Jiraiya said in confusion. Fukasaku and Shima bickered while Jiraiya continued to run until he finally had enough of being left out of the loop. What are you so upset about? I ain't singing no duet with Pa at my age, it's too embarrassing. Jiraiya's sweat dropped, allowing Fukasaku to elaborate. Our most powerful genjutsu is a song that attacks the victim's brain through their sense of hearing. That's why I wanted you to hide, because the sound would give away our position immediately. It also only works when our voices combine into the right melody, and that takes time. We'll have to take him down before he can find us. Jiraiya's face turned grim. If this thing turns ugly and gets even more dangerous, I want you two to get off of my shoulders and return home immediately. Fukasaku looked at Jiraiya in shock. No way in hell, Jiraiya-chan! The outcome of this fight is going to affect the future of the entire world. Hey, Jiraiya said in offense. I have a plan. It's a bit of a gamble though. Naruto versus Conan. It had been minutes and no sign of either Naruto or the pursuit force sent into the building after him were in sight. No one had come back outside at all. Was he really that hard to find in there? He was nearly 7 feet tall and was a massive humanoid fox. How hard could it be to locate him inside of a building? Suddenly, Naruto jumped out of a window on the 10th floor, covering an absurd amount of distance with one jump, but there was a victorious look on his face. Boom! Conan flew away swiftly. Get away from the building now! Every floor, 10th and below, went up in a colossal explosion. A force 5 times the power of a normal explosive note blew up on every floor below the 10th, catching countless ninja that had been surrounding the building in the destruction, and that was all before the entire building came down. Naruto watched from a distance, holding on to the side of another building, as the towering structure he had once been inside of fell. That was a really bad strategy. They wouldn't have cornered me in there anyway. A paper shuriken flew at him, forcing him to move his head as it nicked his cheek. He looked over to see Conan looking at him in abject fury. What? I'm a seed of war, aren't I? This is the only thing I'm good for according to you. You were just the one stupid enough to make an enemy out of me. You had to know it would come to this, trying to use me and the others as active weapons. You're just upset that it's happening here, in your home. Your little master plan isn't so good when it's being practiced on you, is it? It doesn't matter, Conan said. No matter what you do, you won't leave here today. You will be beaten, you will have the QB extracted from you. Because no matter how much of a monster you may fight, like, you can't compare to a ... God? Naruto finished her statement for her blithely. I haven't seen him yet. If this pain guy is God, then he would strike me down, wouldn't he? He wouldn't let me do this for very long if he were, would he? He would know I was here and tearing Ame apart, right? This guy is no more a god than I am. Having had enough of the banter, Conan attacked Naruto again with her paper sword. Naruto swatted her in the arm with his tail, revealing her to be a paper clone, but this was largely useless at the moment as the clone transformed completely into paper and began latching onto Naruto, completely covering him again. Damn it, I can't use Danzojiji's wind jutsu in this form. It takes more control than I've got like this. Conan wordlessly made a hand seal, revealing a few of the sheets to be explosive notes that began burning down before exploding on Naruto, sending him falling from the side of the building he was on to the ground, smoke flying off of his body from the explosions. Ugh, if she knew Fuinjutsu, she would be damn near unbeatable. Thank you, Erokyofu, for neglecting to teach her that much, at least because you gave her one hell of a base to work from. Naruto thought to himself as he picked himself up off of the ground. As he made his way to his feet, he quickly found a water whip wrapped around his neck, choking him, before 2 more wrapped around both of his arms. Naruto glared at the Ame ninja who had taken advantage of his predicament against Conan to attempt to capture him. Hold him for the angel to finish him off. Don't let him escape. Naruto let out a snort and jerked one of his arms harshly, yanking one man off of his feet towards him right at his feet, where Naruto delivered a stomp to his back that finished him off. With both hands free, Naruto grabbed onto the whip around his other arm and used it to propel that attacker into the one that had the whip around his neck. Things could have been going far worse, all things considered, but things were looking bleak at the moment. He needed to find Jiraiya and get the hell out of Ame before their luck ran out. Unfortunately, at the moment, he was still stuck in the middle of the enemy with an S-rank missing ninja trying to do whatever she could to pester him and capture him. Like in one of Orochimaru's bases, only now it was an entire village and there was nowhere to really hide. Not only that, but he wasn't alone. He wasn't leaving Jiraiya behind, and he had no idea what Jiraiya was into. If he was fighting, then the old pervert was most definitely in the middle of a battle of his own. Maybe he was being assaulted by multiple opponents like he was. He had to get to him and see what they were to do from this point. He was still the commander of this mission, and Naruto was his underling. Naruto used his tails to furiously whip away Conan's paper before using them to throw more long-range wind chakra balls at Conan. I need more ranged attacks, he said to himself and Kyubi before taking off through the streets to search for Jiraiya. Conan hot on his heels and keeping up her ranged attack. Conan had an almost indiscernible smirk on her face as she continued to attack Naruto. He didn't know it, between the fighting he had to do on the ground and the attacks he had to worry about from the sky, but Conan couldn't bring him down here in the middle of the city, not on her own, not without utterly destroying it. That was never her plan. She never wanted the people of the village to get involved in taking him on, they did that of their own volition. In reality she was corralling him, because with her view from the sky she knew where Pain was. After he was through dealing with Jiraiya he could finish off Naruto too. All she had to do was get him there and Pain could and would handle the rest. Because as the Rakuta Sannin proved back in his heyday, even a demon was no match for a god. Jiraiya versus Pain. Pain and the other men ran through the underbelly of Amegakure, pipes strewn all about and narrow halls and pathways rampant when a strange song began to sound out. It sounds like frogs. Genjutsu? He said before getting a direction of the sound. He's there. Pain ran through a doorway into a narrow hallway where he saw Jiraiya, but when he attacked he got a rather rude awakening, a Kage Bunshin? A clone was dispelled before Jiraiya showed himself from behind them once they passed his position with his cheeks puffed out widely, Fukasaku and Shima still on his shoulders croaking. Katon, Dienden, fire release, big flame bullet! It fired a blast that covered the entire hallway in flames. The large man moved in front of the blast to run interference and block it. Yes. I knew that would work, the fat one would absorb the jutsu just like I knew he would. The original one only used summons and the fat one only uses that absorption jutsu. They all have one unique technique, but that one technique is all they can use. Jiraiya thought excitedly to himself as he was beginning to figure the entire thing out. Only one of them can see me right now. The large one was looking at the attack he was blocking, the long-haired one was blinded from earlier, and the ponytailed one, Pain, was the only one looking at him. Pain and the long-haired one jumped over the remnants of the fire attack while the fat one worked to absorb it. The long-haired man stuck himself to the ceiling, getting a smirk out of Jiraiya. Doton, Yomi Numa, Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld. The ceiling ended up pulling him into it, keeping him stuck there helplessly. Looks like it's one-on-one again, Jiraiya said to Pain. Pain quickly tried to make a move, but Jiraiya was all over him before he could do anything. Enough! No more summoning for you! Suddenly all of the enemies found themselves unable to move, getting Jiraiya to explain. This is a genjutsu that paralyzes your nerves and your mind. All three of your bodies can no longer move an inch. Jiraiya-sensei, I had no idea you were able to utilize such an incredible genjutsu. Pain said as in his mind he and all of his bodies were surrounded by four-toed samurai sealing them all in an illusionary cube of water. Jiraiya smirked. Never underestimate your enemy no matter who it is. I taught you that years ago, Nagato, he said before taking on a reminiscing look. Nagato, you followed the wrong path. I wanted you to rise above the pain you felt, to conquer it, not use it to lead the world to ruin. He let out a bitter laugh as he remembered words that told him he would teach a student that would save the world or destroy it. For a while I thought it would be you. Sigh goodbye, Nagato. The illusion ended when in the real world Jiraiya drove a massive stone sword through each of their chests. And now it's finally over. He then noticed Shima and Fukasaku coughing. Are you two alright? Fukasaku nodded. That song really dries your throat out. Shima rubbed her throat. It ain't easy getting the harmony with power right. That's why we don't go around using that jutsu at everyone's beck and call. It gives you a sore throat and makes your jaw all slack, not to mention the wrinkles. Jiraiya sighed and turned to leave. Sorry about that. But you'll have plenty of time to rest now. I still have to find Naruto and hope he managed to get himself out of his own mess. Didn't you just tell me not to underestimate my enemies, Jiraiya-sensei? A new voice said from behind Jiraiya and the Toad Elders, but the inflection was familiar. Jiraiya turned his head to face them down, but ended up getting smashed through the wall and out of the hallway to end up falling onto the surface of the water outside of Aim's limits. Jiraiya grit his teeth in pain as he faced down the area he had just been attacked from. Keikido, your arm! Shima said, looking down from the shoulder she was set on. Jiraiya's left arm had been severed from that one single attack from his assailant. What in the hell just happened? Fukasaku asked as he looked at their new attackers. Their faces are completely different from the other three. He must have summoned them before we caught him in our genjutsu. There were now 6 enemies. In addition to the 3 he had been fighting, somehow having been revived, he was now fighting a bald man with no neck and piercings all in his head, a slightly burly man that looked slightly aged with spiky orange hair and piercings all through his face, and a younger man with spiky orange hair and, just like the rest, piercings all in his face, and they all had the Rinnegan. It's time, the youngest looking one with orange spiky hair said. For you to witness the 6 paths of pain. S6? Fukasaku said, somewhat startled by the turn of events. There are 6 of them? But we just beat 3 of them. Shima looked at them all angrily for the wounds inflicted on Jiraiya. The new 3 must have used some technique to heal the old 3. But there ain't no jutsu that brings folks back from the dead just like that. Are they even human? The youngest one spoke up. The name pain is shared by all 6 of us. How can there be 6 people with Rinnegan? He asked loudly before he got a very good look at one of the people. No, that face, it can't be. Why, Yahiko? But he just said that you were dead. And your eyes? Yahiko looked down at Jiraiya from his elevated position coldly. You can still see Yahiko in me? How funny. I supposed only his teacher would recognize what was left of him. But make no mistake, Sensei, Yahiko is dead. The man standing before you is Pain, no one else. I'm sick of your bullshit. Jiraiya roared at him. How the hell can all of you have the Rinnegan? You didn't have it when I was training you, that much was definite. So are you Nagato or Yahiko? Who the hell are you? We are Pain, Yahiko said simply. We are God! They all shouted in unison before launching to attack. Naruto versus Conan. Get off of me! Naruto shouted as he swiped his claws through another group of Ama ninja trying to take him down. For every one of them he wound up putting down, it seemed that another was more than willing to throw themselves at him in an attempt to leave him wide open for Conan. And with the odds of probability on their side, she ended up getting more than a few decent shots at him. Using the Kitsune trigger bolstered his strength, speed, ability to recover from damage, and brought his overall bloodlust to palpably high levels, but he sacrificed the use of the vast majority of his ninjutsu and the protection of the chakra cloak in exchange for the control over the Kyuubi's chakra to give himself a boost of his natural attributes. And despite the fact that his wounds would heal quickly for the most part, he still took the damage. Naruto let out another yell as he felt Conan's paper shuriken rip into his back. She was sniping him, slowly picking him apart from out of his reach as the Ama ninja engaged him and attracted his attention. He was no longer fighting the unified mob he had been running through at the start. The ones that still chose to face him were the most stanch believers in Pain and Conan, and were willing to do what they needed to for their god's angel to take him out. He jumped at her, missing wide again, but ended up whiffing her with one of his tails as he brushed past her, knocking her from the sky. Naruto turned back around to see her hit the ground and saw his chance. That was until a wall of Ame shinobi took up defensive positions in front of her, setting up walls of water to give her time to recover. Naruto grit his teeth, picking the paper shuriken out of his back so that the newest of his ever-present wounds could heal up. Fine, if they wanted him to fight an army, that was okay with him. He was supposed to be an army killer. Naruto opened his hand and formed a sphere of raw demonic chakra before placing it in his mouth and swallowing it. I hate this move. Why do I have to do it like this? You never complain about your Imari tasting like crap. Naruto screamed in his mind at Kyuubi. Because you can't handle my full power, and you need this as a shortcut. Just like with the original intent of the Kitsune trigger, the Imari is a far cry from my true power, but it is a shortcut that allows you to harness it for what you need it for, which should be good enough. You're supposed to more or less throw it back up anyway, so quit complaining and fire it already, Kyuubi said as he rolled his eyes at hearing Naruto bite back his dry heaves. Conan remembered the description of this attack before from Setsu's description of Naruto's fight with Kimimaro. He's going to use that here in the village. She shouted to the amassed ninja standing in front of her. Get away now! You can't block this attack. It will kill you all. Too late. This is what you wanted, the Kyuubi. Well, take all of the power of the Kyuubi that I can give you. Naruto thought to himself as he started the process. Imari, menacing ball! Naruto shouted as he fired off a beam fronted by a ball of destructive chakra that immediately obliterated everything in its path in a hellstorm that annihilated the village in front of it on a wide scale. Jiraiya sat inside of what appeared to be the stomach of a toad on an island of sorts surrounded by corrosive stomach acid. He had suffered a stab wound through his body from some sort of strange sharpened rod by an injured body of Pain that was there with him. It was the one with the ponytail that he had been fighting at first. I can't believe he charged right into the toad gourd barrier, Jiraiya said in an exhausted voice. I can't believe I got one. Are you sure you're all right, kiddo? Shima asked him worriedly. Jiraiya nodded. I'll manage, he said before a strange sensation flowed through his body. My chakra's going crazy. I can't control it. Jiraiya hunched over in pain with the rod sticking out of his body. Fukasaku looked at it intently and ripped it out. It's this thing. It ain't enough that they all look weird and there are 6 of them, they have to use crazy weapons too. These boys ain't people, there's something else. Jiraiya looked at the unmoving Pain body in front of him. I guess this one is the real Nagato after all. he said to himself before the Amahaidiate on its head slipped off to reveal a scar on its forehead that gave Jiraiya a flashback to many years ago. No! I remember now! This isn't Nagato, it can't be! The toads on his shoulders looked at him in confusion. I fought this man before a long time ago. Right after I began traveling due to the great sage's advice, I was attacked by a man from the Fuma clan and I wound up giving him that scar on his forehead. So what is he doing here? Shima said impatiently. Fukasaku held his head. The more we learn about pain, the less we understand. Jiraiya's face looked grave. If the prophecy is true, then I need to know the truth. I have to fight them again. I can't allow you two to be hurt because of me. Please return home. Fukasaku would have none of it. Are you insane, boy? If you go out there, then you're toast. There's even more Rinnegan eyes out there than before, and he ain't likely to fall for that barrier trap again. He ain't figured out what's going on yet. We need to run. The entire place began to rock and shake violently as if an earthquake had hit. Jiraiya shook his head determinedly. You're probably right. If I leave this barrier, then there's a high chance I'm not going to walk away from this one, but it's my chance to find out his true identity, and Naruto is still out there. If he can't get me, then he'll just go after him. Naruto is still either fighting or trying to find me. He wouldn't just cut and run without me, I know it. Without me out there, he'll be overwhelmed and captured. I need both of you to take this corpse back to Tsunade with everything that we've learned on this mission. If that's all you want, then Ma can handle that herself, Fukasaku said, still not willing to leave. Jiraiya was about to dispute him when Shima spoke up. You'd better not be late for dinner. Fukasaku smirked. We won't be. Me and Jiraiya-chan will be there right after we finish up here. Right outside Amegakure. Pain and all of his bodies looked back at his village, or more accurately a massive trench ripping right through his village. Jiraiya had somehow escaped his attack and had managed to take down one of his bodies, one he hadn't been able to locate yet. If that weren't enough, moments later he and the rest of the bodies had to either dodge or get vaporized when a tiny, scaled-down version of a Baijidama, tailed beast ball, blasted through the edge of the village, leaving the aforementioned trench that was 1/8 of a mile wide and had destroyed everything in its path, blowing buildings apart, bringing them down. It was a complete debacle. Kyubi Jinchuriki, Pain said lowly, as there was only one person or thing that could produce such an attack that was in Aim's vicinity. While he and all of the bodies surveyed the damage caused and waited for Naruto to show himself in some manner, Jiraiya surfaced from the water behind them with Fukasaku on his shoulder, who had summoned a massive shuriken that Jiraiya threw at the bald Pain body. It knew it was coming due to the sight of another body and dodged accordingly. Jiraiya got a good look at them all and realized something. I knew it. They're all shinobi that I've met before. That has to be it. I know your identity now, Pain. Jiraiya's train of thought was cut off when the bald Pain body attacked him, and with pure hand-to-hand skill, the same one that took his arm, smashed Jiraiya in the throat and sent him to the ground, impaling him with their rods. Fuck. I need to tell Fukasaku-sama. I need to tell him to find Naruto and get him out of here. But my throat. Arrow Kyofu. A rush of balls of air flew at the Pain bodies surrounding Jiraiya's body, forcing them away for Naruto to land and kneel by his side. Naruto was panting heavily due to the toll the battles and the use of the Kitsune trigger had been taking on him. Arrow Kyofu, it's me, Naruto! Kami, what did they do to you? He asked Jiraiya, getting no response from him. Pull those rods out of him, boy! Fukasaku shouted to Naruto, ignoring his appearance for the time being due to more important happenings going on at the moment. Naruto quickly acted and pulled them out. It's going to be fine, I'm getting you out of here. Naruto turned to Fukasaku. You should leave now. Arokyofu can't fight anymore and I don't know how to fight with you. Fukasaku shook his head. I'm not leaving you or Jiraiya-chan like this. I know you're his pupil as well, just like this Pain fella used to be. Naruto's eyes panned upwards at the bodies of Pain looking at him. Which one is Pain? I see 4 different guys over there. Doing some quick deductions, Fukasaku shouted to Naruto in warning. No! There are supposed to be 5. We got rid of one. It came too late for Naruto to react defensively as a blade, the same that had been driven into Jiraiya, had been shoved into Naruto's back that pierced through his front by the young, spiky orange-haired Pain. Hello Kyubi Jinchuriki Naruto Uzumaki. I have to say that it is certainly nice to finally meet you. Naruto gasped desperately as he felt his chakra disrupted by the weapon sticking out of his body, an image of strange swirl-patterned eyes in his head. His Kitsune trigger form receded back to normal as his control over the form slipped. He dropped to his knees, clutching at the blade sticking out of his chest when Pain spoke again. You will survive this wound. It isn't fatal. How fitting it is that all of Jiraiya-sensei's surviving pupils meet here. Naruto looked up into the eyes of Pain and saw the pattern that was flittering through his mind. All the while his body felt utterly broken. He was completely exhausted and his wounds from the fight with Konan and the Amen ninja force were reopening. The Rinnegan. The Kyuubi uttered inside of Naruto's mind. I will not allow this pretender to yoke me under his will. I will not be his slave. It roared, pushing whatever it could chakra-wise into Naruto's weak frame. Do not let him defeat you here. Get up. Naruto slowly pulled the blade out of his chest and threw it back at the single Pain, javelin style. Pain dodged it effortlessly and began dodging Naruto's sluggish attempts at engaging him in taijutsu. Naruto's first punch was blocked by Pain, who delivered a backhand strike that sent Naruto reeling backwards, but still barely standing. With a roar, Naruto came back and once more only for the young Pain to move and allowed the bald one to deliver a bone-shattering punch right to Naruto's body that destroyed his ribs and sent him to the ground in a heap. He grabbed Naruto by his spiky blonde locks and pulled him up to eye level where Naruto spit blood into his eye, getting him to drop him back onto his feet where the Konoha Jounin turned to wind up getting socked in the face by the fat Pain. Fukasaku watched Naruto take his beating, the rest of the Pains jumping in and ping-ponging him back and forth between each other, while staying by Jiraiya, who was still holding on. He's just taking it all. He can't even fight back anymore and still he won't go down. He looked at Jiraiya, who had only one eye open as it all unfolded in front of him. He's a lot like you in that respect, Jiraiya-chan. He won't give up. What is this? Naruto thought weakly to himself over the sounds of the Kyuubi yelling at him to fight back, to do something. Naruto stumbled towards the blinded, long-haired Pain with his fist weakly cocked back, only to get kicked in the back before taking a fist to the body that doubled him over the arm. They beat Erokyofu, they beat me. I was never even in the fight against this guy. It is futile, Pain said to the damaged Jinchuriki. You are the living embodiment of destruction. No human is meant to wield the power you hold. You will never find a way to become stronger than me. On the other hand, I can and will use the power inside of you to bring peace to this world. It is my duty as its new god. Naruto blinked weakly before he pushed himself off of the fist driven into his body towards the seemingly main Pain, collapsing against him. He weakly pulled himself face to face with Pain, where with one of his eyes swollen shut he glared at him. You're no god, he said before doing something that he attributed to a death wish the last time he had done so. The last time he had done this he had been freshly unsealed and had done it as a legitimate battle plan in order to fight Itachi Uchiha. It was so outlandish and out of left field to attempt in battle that it actually worked and distracted him. There was no strategy here. There was no logical reason for him to want to do this. It would not help him win. It would not inspire him to keep fighting any harder than he was already attempting to. Doing what he did to Pain right then and there had no purpose whatsoever except that Naruto just wanted to spit in God's face. Literally. Naruto hawked a loogie that was 85% blood that splattered all over Pain's face. So surprised by that course of action as no one had ever done that to him in his entire life. Every single Pain stood in abject shock, letting Naruto push himself back off of him and use the last of his chakra to form a spinning blue orb in one hand. Rasengan, spiraling sphere! Shinra Tensei, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god! Pain roared in pure malice as Naruto's body was violently jerked away from attacking by an unseeable force. The force of Pain's angered attack was so intense it not only threw Naruto, it tossed a few of the other bodies of Pain away, it threw the small outcroppings of land amid the water surrounding Ame away, and it sent Naruto, Fukasaku, and Jiraiya's bodies flying into the air. Fukasaku sat atop Jiraiya's body as it lifelessly flew through the air and saw Naruto's doing much the same. Naruto! There was no emotion in Naruto's eyes, no life. He was not dead, he wasn't even unconscious. I couldn't win. I wasn't strong enough. His eyes drifted over to Jiraiya, who was no better off than he was, and because of Naruto he had to take even more damage. And once they fell from the sky, Pain was going to catch him and extract the Kyuubi and leave Jiraiya to drown. He had lost. I'm sorry, Erokyofu. I'm sorry, Tsunade-bachan. I'm sorry, Danzojiji. I'm sorry, everyone. I just wasn't good enough when it mattered. Naruto shut his eyes and never heard the shouts of Naruto-senpai before he lost consciousness. Kanahigaku no Sado. Hamiko had moved all of Naruto's things into the new house she had purchased for him and was in the middle of setting things up for his return when the correspondence tattoo she had placed on herself and Naruto began to throb numbly. It wasn't any kind of code as what normally occurred when he would speak to her. It was a steady feeling, not in any kind of pattern, nor did it have any legible form. She moved to the window and looked outside at the rain pouring down in the village. What happened to you, Naruto-sama? And are you alright? Chapter 40. The Foundation Holds Strong. Kanahigaku no Sado, Hokage Tower. The rain was still falling heavily in Konoha as the early morning began. It had been for over a week, going on ever since 2 days after Naruto and Jiraiya left. Tsunade had a horribly uneasy feeling about something, and the only pressing issue on her mind that could have been doing so at the moment was the situation that she had sent Naruto and Jiraiya into in Amegakure. While she hadn't expected any news back soon, that still didn't mean she wasn't worried. As she entered her office, Shizune gave her the basic rundown of the day that she listened to half-heartedly, still getting the gist of what she was meant to do that day. Upon finishing, the dark-haired attendant bowed to her and left the room, allowing Tsunade's mind to drift once again. Eventually, however, she felt the presence of an intruder in the office and stood up to prepare herself to defend against it, only for the intruder to be revealed as a small, elderly female toad. Tsunade calmed down and retook her seat, sighing in relief. "Damn nerves," she muttered to herself before addressing the toad. "Yes, can I help you?" she asked. Shima hopped onto Tsunade's desk and looked her in the eyes before uttering what she had come to say. "Little Jiraiya and his apprentice are missing," she said somberly. Tsunade froze for a moment before speaking. "How? Why? What happened to them? What do you mean missing?" Shima shook her head. "They wound up fighting with 2 members of Akatsuki. One of them happened to be the leader. The last thing I remember happening before I was sent away to return here to you was Jiraiya-chan losing his left arm. Pa stayed to help him, but he hasn't returned to empty my boku either." Tsunade slumped back in her seat and looked up at the ceiling in an attempt to divert her tears from spilling. "Tell me everything you can," the blonde woman said, trying to hide her pain behind a businesslike voice. Unknown location. Naruto's eyes opened to a dark room that was thoroughly unfamiliar to him. His mind started functioning in overdrive, giving himself a quick systems check. He felt fine for a guy that had been smashed by an invisible wall hard enough to be thrown for over 1.5 miles and had been impaled straight through. Why would the Akatsuki heal him? And why wasn't he bound? As a matter of fact, why was he even conscious? Did they really think he posed that little of a threat, even after having been defeated? A living Naruto Uzumaki was a dangerous Naruto Uzumaki, and it was time for these fools to realize that. Let's see, nothing in the room that he could use as a weapon. Well, at least they weren't that arrogant, if nothing else. Fine, he didn't need a weapon, his hands were his weapons. After all, even if he failed again, they wouldn't kill him, they still needed him. No clothes except for a pair of boxers on his frame, his body was wrapped in bandages. He still couldn't get over the fact that they treated him. Why would they do that? Naruto quietly made his way to the door of his room and stuck himself to the ceiling right above it, and waited patiently for anyone to enter so that he could begin his swift escape. After a decent amount of time waiting, the doors slowly opened and shut before someone began taking steps inside of the room. Naruto quickly landed on the ground behind them, ignoring the pain in his torso, and wrapped his arms around the person's neck in a chokehold to quietly put them down. That would have been his course of action had the person he grabbed a hold of not replaced themselves in a kawarimi with a chair near his bed. "I'm very glad I prepared that kawarimi before I entered the room, Naruto-senpai, or you might have killed me just now." Hearing a smooth female voice made him believe Konan had been the one in the room, but the added senpai to his name shook him of that notion. Only Sai ever called him senpai, but Sai sure as hell wasn't a woman. As a matter of fact, the only reason Sai called him Naruto-senpai was because he was in Root. "Root?" Naruto asked, slumping against the closed door. "That's right, Naruto-senpai. We are currently in a Root hideout in Kawa no Kuni, River Country. We headed here after retrieving you and Jiraiya-sama from Amegakure," the female voice said once again informatively. "You really shouldn't be out of bed." Naruto sent out a question that he needed answered. "You said you retrieved me and Jiraiya. Does that mean he's alive?" he said hopefully. "Yes," the female said, getting Naruto to slide to the floor against the door in relief. "His wounds were far more appalling than yours, however. Your entire skeletal frame was cracked, and you had a few ruptured organs to go with the stab wound through your torso." Naruto looked across the darkened room at the female who had taken a seat on his bed. "And what of Ero Kyofu?" The girl let out a sigh. "Jiraiya-sama had a stab wound through his torso much like yourself that injured a few organs of his. His left arm was severed from his body at the shoulder, and his throat was crushed in battle. He is currently in a coma. We put him under so that he wouldn't know of our base. I'm sorry if you have a problem with that. Orders. I can give you the shot you need to take him out of it when it's time for him to leave." Naruto ran a hand down his face. "How did you get us out? We should have been finished. There was no way you guys fought off that pain guy." He looked at her, trying to somehow get night vision to make out her features. "I'm sorry, I don't even know your name. Sai-senpai has given me my old code name of Maki as he said that you would find it the most familiar." You did spar with me often, Naruto-senpai, back before your unfortunate incident in Odogekure, she said. Naruto's hands felt along the walls until he finally hit the light switch and illuminated the room. His eyes slowly adjusted to the light before making out Maki's appearance. The Maki he remembered he never got to actually see. Her operational clothing was baggy, her hair had always been short, and she always wore her mask around him. He didn't even know she was a girl until Sai told him she was during their trip to Uzushiogakure. Flashback, Naruto, age 5. Danzo walked with a young Naruto through an underground route base in Konoha. Naruto, it is important for you to keep up appearances in the village so that it is not outright discovered that you are training with me, as you well know. Naruto nodded and kept silent as they walked. I have and will continue to oversee your training, but an important part of working as a shinobi is teamwork, and you will learn to work with others here. Okay, Danzo GG, Naruto said resolutely. Danzo looked at Naruto, hiding his ire at the jab at his age. He knew it was a form of endearment, but he was wrestling in his head over whether or not he wanted Naruto to see him that way to ensure his loyalty, or if he wanted Naruto to be like the rest of his soldiers. But for now, he was just going to have to go with the status quo. Do you need another conditioning session with Dajima? No, Danzo-sama, Naruto said blankly. Danzo could tell that he abhorred adding that particular honorific to anyone's name, but nothing worth forming was built in a day. Naruto would eventually get used to calling him Danzo-sama, or so he thought. Danzo led Naruto into a room that appeared to be a dojo of sorts, where there was a person his age sitting in the middle of the room. They had short black hair and a baggy black long-sleeved shirt and pants, as well as a plain white mask on their face, making Naruto wonder if he should put his on too. Before he could reach for his mask or ask about it, Danzo spoke. Begin, he said sharply. Naruto was almost caught off guard by his equally diminutive counterpart as they came at him from their seated position to attack him before he was even aware of what was occurring. After a short, mildly skilled back and forth of taijutsu between the two children, Danzo sharply ordered them to heal. Enough! He walked between them. Naruto, this is Maki. You will be working with Maki. Training, needing missions. This person will be your partner unless I call for you personally. Do you understand? Naruto nodded. Maki, do you understand? You will work with Naruto here as your sole partner. Maki nodded and looked at Naruto through the mask's eye holes. Very good. End flashback. Now it was coming back to him. Maki was the only person he really got to call an acquaintance en route. He said acquaintance instead of friend because Maki never really spoke to him. He never saw Maki outside of the base unless they were busy, and even then Maki only spoke in short, low-syllable comments that quickly conveyed what needed to be said. And he never saw her without that damn mask they were all given. However, Danzo didn't reuse codenames for other people. If this girl was really the Maki he more or less grew up with, then the name was a definite indication of that. This Maki was right at his age. She was far smaller than him, as she didn't top out over 5 feet in height to his 5'7", but she had definitely grown out. She didn't wear baggy clothing anymore either. She wore tight black pants, black sandals, and much like Sai wore, a high-collared tight shirt, one sleeve long to go with the other arm that was sleeveless that came to her stomach and zipped up. It was left unzipped enough to reveal part of her chest and the mesh shirt she wore. Her dark gray eyes were rather hardened, something he expected as it was the same girl he worked with as a child. She still had short black hair, but as it now came down to her neck in order to go with a pair of long braids descending down her back, there was no disputing that she was most certainly a girl. She wasn't even wearing a mask, it was attached to her hip. Hello, Maki, Naruto said, trying to pick himself up off of the ground but was now fully feeling the effect of his wounds. How have you been? He asked as the girl helped him up and back over to his bed. I have been fine, senpai, she responded, setting him down on his bed. Due to your unfortunate capture and subsequent sealing, Danzo-sama never truly saw it fit for me to go through the final stage of his emotional conditioning. And that was? Naruto asked as he tried to sit up, only to be pushed down by Maki's delicate hand. Her sharp gray eyes locked with his blue ones. A fight to the death between me and you. Wait, he seriously would have made Maki fight him back then? 8-year-old Naruto back then would have slaughtered an 8-year-old Maki. She was good enough to keep up with him in training, but a fight between them would have always ended with his victory. He was a Jinchuriki that was trained by the leader of the cell personally. She was just a little girl, a well-trained little girl, but still a little girl. I was never subjected to that part of the training. As anyone Danzo-sama would have made me fight would not have had that much of a bond with me if there was even one at all. The same thing happened to Sai-senpai when his partner Shin died of a disease before their test could happen. Naruto nodded, wondering why Maki was keeping him from sitting up when he felt some blood rising from his throat. Maki shook her head and made a few hand seals before her hands began to glow green. Shaozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique. Honestly, senpai, you're still as stubborn as a mule. Naruto lay still on the bed as Maki gave him a touch-up to patch his injured organs up. You never answered my question, Maki. How did you get us out of there? Maki gave him a smile that seemed strange on her usually stern-looking face. We were there with you the entire time, senpai. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Sai-senpai and myself along with a platoon of root ninja. Why do you think the full force of AIM's military wasn't brought down to bear on you? Because we were there keeping the bulk of them away from you when you were discovered. You ended up causing quite a stir when you fought with that Akatsuki member all across the village. Naruto coughed up a little leftover blood. Danzojiji sent a platoon? He had 50 ninja to spare to get me out of Ame? Maki shook her head. Well, why did he have them there? Maki wiped the blood away from his lip. We weren't actually there for you. Danzo-sama sent a platoon in to use the Ame civil war as a cover to assassinate Hanzo, but he was already dead. We didn't know the war was over until we got there. Killed by the man that defeated you and Jiraiya-sama. Pain. Before we left, you were discovered and Sai-senpai called an audible of sorts to get you out. It was actually successful, all things considered. Even though we didn't do it, Hanzo is dead, and we only lost 13 men of the 55 we sent in. And you brought us here with you when you retreated from the village, Naruto said. But there was an elderly toad with arrow Kyofu. What happened to him? Maki stood up after depositing the syringe she promised Naruto on his bed by his side. He's still by Jiraiya-sama's bedside. He said he was waiting for you to wake up, and he isn't the only one, but at the moment you can go see him first. She walked towards the door and pointed towards a stand in the corner. There are fresh clothes for you over there, yours were absolutely ruined. And she stopped and gave Naruto another smile. It really is good to see you again, senpai. I miss you. Naruto blinked in surprise. Miss me? She missed him? How? She barely spoke to him and they weren't that close, at least to him. Hell, he didn't even know she was a girl for the longest time. So you still have your emotions? You're not a brick wall like Sai is. Well, it was until I got to him? It must have been a root thing. They didn't get much time with people, so those that they actually spent time with they wound up bonding with, until Danzo made them fight. I never finished emotional conditioning, Maki commented as she slipped her way out of the door and shut it behind her. Remember, Root is and always has been on your side, Naruto-senpai, she said simply as the door clicked shut. Kanahigakure no Sato, Hokage Tower. Hamiko sat in front of the Hokage with a stern look on her face and shook her head resolutely. Naruto-sama isn't dead, Hokage-sama. Tsunade felt bad for the girl at first due to her seeming inability to accept that Naruto was caught by the Akatsuki, but this was getting ridiculous. Even Shima couldn't tell the girl otherwise. Hamiko, you have to accept that Jiraiya and Naruto are missing. I'll be here for you, you can get through this just as I can. Hamiko sighed. Master isn't dead or missing. I can ask him right now. She pulled part of her kimono down and placed 2 fingers on the tattoo on her shoulder, channeling chakra through it in bursts. Yes, he wasn't answering for a few days and the feeling I got from our link told me something was wrong, but he answered me after I tried calling him when the throbbing feeling stopped. Tsunade hopped up from her desk as Shima looked at her in shock. Where is he? Is Jiraiya okay? What happened? What about Pa? Shima asked. Is he alright? Hamiko frowned as she tried to sort out how to get that to him in coded format. After doing so, she spoke up and informed them. Well, Jiraiya-sama's alive. He believes that this Pa person is too because he was with them the whole time before he went unconscious. He apparently doesn't know where he is, but when he gets his bearings he'll tell me and I'll tell you. Hamiko knew where he was, he had told her, but she also knew that Naruto did not desire his ongoing relationship with Root to be known so that he would have to deal with that. He is safe though. He assured me of that. He can move, and he will tell me more when he gets the chance. Tsunade and Shima let out sighs of relief. I'm going to smack that brat and that pervert one when they get back here. She looked at Hamiko gratefully. Thank you for that, Hamiko. That was all I called you for. If you could bring Shizune in when you leave, that would be great. We have work to sort out. Hamiko smiled and stood with a bow before leaving. She was still worried about Naruto, and there was only one thing she could do when she was worried: work. He would communicate with her again soon enough. Kawa no Kuni, hidden root base. Naruto felt somewhat safe again with his gear back on his person. He had no shoes, but he had on a plain long-sleeved black shirt and black pants, and had his sword slung over his back as normal as he walked the halls of the base without an escort. Unlike Orochimaru's bases, Danzo's weren't uniform. A root base would either be a small hideaway like the one Naruto used with Yujito and Kaminari no Kuni or something like the one he was in, a full compound used as planning points and overall bases of operation for use in foreign excursions. No two were built the same, and there were no signs or anything to help you find anything, and Naruto had never been to this one. Fortunately, he was already in what he would label as the medical wing, and it didn't take him long to find Jiraiya's room, with Fukasaku standing nearby looking at him. "You wanted to see me?" Naruto asked as he entered the room and shut the door behind him. Fukasaku looked at Naruto as he walked in and looked down at Jiraiya. "He's gonna be fine, they say. I don't rightly know who they is, but they kept Jiraiya-chan alive. Most of them had the Konoha symbol on their hideate. They aren't trying to restrain me, and you don't seem to be nervous in the least here, so I suppose I shouldn't be either." How dash dot. Naruto didn't know how to word it as he saw how bad things looked during the fight with Pain. "How is he for sure? Do you know? I told Tsunade-ba-chan he was alive, but I don't know what exactly is wrong with him." Fukasaku sighed and moved closer to Naruto. "Well, as you could see before we got thrown like ants, he lost his left arm. Ain't nothing no one can do about that. His throat was crushed. It's going to take some time for him to regain speech with proper medical treatment. He had a ton of damage to his internal organs, but I guess getting that beaten all those years ago from Tsunade was good for one thing, because he'll survive. He's just not gonna be in any kind of fighting shape for a while if ever again." "At least he's not dead," Naruto said as he dropped to his knees by Jiraiya's bed, feeling the pain in his knees and placed his head on the bed. "At least he'll live to perv another day." The room settled into a comfortable silence. "How long have we been here?" 5 days, Fukasaku informed him. "They said you went and cracked every bone in your body. How did you go and manage that?" Naruto looked at the elderly toad. "The price you pay to use power you can't truly control. I can't use even 4 tails without using the Kitsune trigger, the thing you saw that turned me into the fox-looking thing. I can't use any actual ninjutsu when I do it though. It's all power and speed, and it wasn't enough for that Pain guy. He named Arrow Kyofu and he beat me so fast." "You didn't know anything about him." "Well, Jiraiya-chan does and I do too, so does Ma, and she's given her account to your Hokage now," Fukasaku reasoned. "That was the reason you went to Amma in the first place, ain't it? Mission accomplished." "I could have beaten Konan if I could have gotten her one-on-one," Naruto said. "But Pain, I don't think me at full capacity could have beaten him. He was so fast, and there were so many of him. That one bald one was so strong. I never had a chance." Fukasaku nodded. "How do you feel now? Are you angry? Are you scared?" Frowning, Naruto shook his head in the negative. "I'm not mad. You'd think it would be weird, but I'm really not mad. Even after everything that he did to Arrow Kyofu. He's alive, and I know he won't let this keep him down. But no matter what, I never took it personally. No matter how much of a bastard Pain is, he has his own goals, so do we, me and Arrow Kyofu. Our goals just clashed. That's the reason that ninja exists, right? Being mad won't change anything. It won't make me stronger, it won't make him weaker, it won't give Arrow Kyofu his arm back, it won't make me feel better about getting my ass handed to me, and it won't help me control more of Kyuubi's power, it'll just make it harder." "And the fear?" Fukasaku said. "No fear," Naruto said. He stood up slowly due to his injured skeletal frame. "What is there to be afraid of? I already know he can beat me. So all that there is to do now is find a way to get stronger than him, and I know it's possible, so that I never have to see someone like Arrow Kyofu hurt fighting for me again. That's why he did all of this, took these wounds, because he's stronger than me and wanted to protect me. He must have given that bastard hell though." Fukasaku smiled and chuckled. "Damn right he did. He took one of the bastard's bodies and got it to your Hokage. It won't take long, and they'll figure out a way to beat kid." He looked at Jiraiya. "What do we do now?" Naruto started pacing around in thought. I can't go back to Konoha as I am. Not like this. Now that Pain knows I can't beat him, and now that he knows he can beat Arrow Kyofu, he's going to be after me full blast now. He'll attack Konoha directly if I'm there. Especially after all of the damage I did to Amma with one attack. I can't go back with you. I can go with you as far as Hai no Kuni, or take him directly to Suna. Either or, they both work, but I'm not setting foot in Konoha again until I know I'm ready to fight Pain and win." Fukasaku took a moment to think about the options. "I have a better idea. You got a message to Tsunade, didn't you? Well, Ma should be with her. If you can get word to Ma to summon me back to Konoha, I can take Jiraiya-chan with me so we can treat him." Naruto looked at him in shock. "You can do that? I thought only humans could summon you, not the other way around." Fukasaku chuckled. That's right, you've been learning how to work with the toads through Bunta's troublesome boy Gamakichi, haven't you? Well, you need to set up a contract with the toad that you want as your familiar. Damn it, Kichi! Naruto mumbled as he started sending out a message to Hamiko. She should get it in a few minutes. Hamiko-chan is reliable. Here, this should take him out of the coma by the time Tsunade-ba-chan gets to him. He ran a hand through his hair. Tell everyone that I'll be fine. I'll keep in touch through Hamiko-chan, but they need to understand that I can't go back there right now. It's how this has to go. Fukasaku nodded. You gonna travel the world like your sensei did? Naruto gave Jiraiya the shot and let out a short laugh. No, I don't think I'll be going quite that far and wide like Arokyofu. I have a mission to do. Get strong enough to beat pain, and keep Konoha safe. Tell Tsunade-ba-chan not to waste the resources coming after me. I wouldn't do this if I weren't sure I knew what I was doing. Once Gamakichi becomes your legitimate familiar, we can summon you to empty Mayaboku when you want it. He gave a knowing grin. I'm certain Jiraiya-chan will want to show you around the place soon. Can't wait, Naruto said as he walked out of the room. Make sure he takes care of himself and gets rest. One arm or not, I'm sure Konoha is going to need him. Please don't tell her what you saw here, it would cause a bunch of needless trouble. And if Tsunade-ba-chan gets all bent out of shape about me not coming back, tell her that I'm still in the middle of an ongoing mission that I'm choosing to continue at this time. Naruto shut the door behind him and let out a sigh. You'll really head out on your own, Naruto-senpai? Naruto turned to see Sai leaning against the wall right next to the room he had been in moments prior. Are you certain that would be the wisest course of action? Naruto shrugged. Well, put it like this. I could train in Konoha like I've been doing, with a big beacon telling Pain for sure where I am, get attacked by him in his leisure, and have the village be destroyed in the fight, or I can leave without anyone knowing where I intend to go and do the same thing. I have a few places where I can go, Sai, trust me. He looked at the pale teen questioningly. So how did you save us back there? We were flying through the air. I can draw birds large enough to carry multiple people. Or did you forget? Sai gave him his strange smile. Well, be that as it may, Danzo-sama would like to speak to you now that you have recovered. Naruto stopped and turned to Sai. Danzo-jiji is here? Sai nodded. For how long? He never leaves Konoha, he works right from there. I told him you were here after I flew you from Ame to our base. Sai led Naruto through the halls. He came here shortly after I sent it while you were still unconscious. Whatever happened to you almost killed you, Maki-san almost couldn't fix you, even with the Kyuubi. I can feel it, Naruto said. I feel totally brittle if you know what I'm saying. I don't think I could take a single punch without re-injuring something right now. Eventually, Sai led Naruto to a rather plain door with the root kanji on it. Man, this feels like deja vu. Sai knocked on the door and got a stern enter that he followed, bringing Naruto inside with him. Danzo sat inside of the rather Spartan setup of what was his office at this base calmly, looking over Naruto with almost piercingly stern expression that Naruto remembered from his youth. He hadn't seen that look up close and in person in 7 years, it was just like he was 8 again. It was actually good to know that despite everything that had happened, some things didn't change. Danzo was surrounded on both sides of his desk by members of Root. One was a black-haired man with a mask covering his face except for the lower half that had glasses built into the eyes. He wore the usual Root long-sleeved midriff-cut shirt, only he wore a red sash around his waist and an apron over his pants, Torian. The other was a man with auburn-colored hair and a high ponytail that wore a red kimono shirt over his usual Root gear, Fu. Apparently in his absence they rose to a high enough point to be Danzo's bodyguards. Also inside of the room was Maki, standing at attention, who did not show any emotion on her face to his presence, but when he looked at her Naruto could see in her eyes that she was happy to see him. Naruto, Danzo said, immediately getting Naruto's attention. It is good to see you alive and in one piece. How goes your final mission for me? He asked. Naruto wanted to roll his eyes, as if he didn't know. Of course he knew. He was Danzo. Well, Danzo-jiji, Naruto said, getting a glare out of Torian and Fu, still finding it hilarious to see the diehard's desire to admonish him for a lack of formality. But despite them being 5 years older, he was still technically their superior when he was there. Despite their reaction, he didn't get any kind of reaction out of Danzo. Strange. Danzo must have actually missed being called that or something. I'm a jounin now. I know Tsunade-ba-chan personally, as she is technically related to me, and I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage, so I have a direct relation or relationship of some sort with 4 of the 5 Kage that have existed in Konoha's history. And now you have me, a man who worked side by side with the Nidaime Hokage and the man who almost became the Sandaime Hokage, Danzo said with a smirk. Naruto-kun, what would you say if I told you that I had this plan for you all along? To go for Hokage in my stead. Naruto blinked before speaking. I want to say that you're completely bluffing, but I'm not surprised honestly if that was the truth. Danzo's smirk dropped. No, it's true. I knew of your relation to the Yondaime. Most Jinchuriki are related to the village leader somehow, and you look just like him. The evidence was always there for anyone with the knowledge of what to look for. I always had you as my backup plan in case I was never able to secure the place, and I decided after it was deemed that Tsunade would become Hokage that it was time to let you know of my plans. He paused for a moment and made surefire eye contact with Naruto. Do you know how old I am, Naruto-kun? Naruto did quick math in his head. The Sandaime was 69 when he died and you're his age, so I would say you're at least 72. Danzo nodded. Even if I had taken the seat, how long would that have lasted? Any plan I put into motion at that point would have never seen completion before I finally died, leaving Konoha in a state of chaos due to whomever my successor would be not being knowledgeable on my politics. Everything I have done since I realized that I would never be able to condition you had been to prepare you. And when you were captured after your mission to Odogekure, I felt that my plans were all for nothing, but then you broke the seals placed on you just like you always broke mine. And the results ended with you being in a far better position for you to become Hokage than working your way from within our group. After all, starting from ground level is far more desirable than starting from among the roots. Naruto nodded as Danzo continued. You will have the support of Root no matter what throughout your endeavor for me. Sai is to replace me as you know, and Maki, well, I hadn't had plans for her, but she is very skilled at medical jutsu, as you already know due to her healing you, as well as a very skilled combatant. Maki bowed to Danzo after he finished complimenting her. You know Maki from your initial training. She was meant for something more than your emotional conditioning, however, just so you know, but it doesn't matter now. I was never going to have you two fight one another to the death. That got looks of shock from both Naruto and Maki, more so from Maki, as she had known of the final test for years and expected that to have been his and her fate had Naruto remained en route. I am aware of all of your victories in your career, as well as your defeats, Danzo said. Do not feel discouraged, that is a sign of weakness. This pain person was enough of a force even before your birth to take out an entire platoon of my shinobi as well as those of Hanzo. He has clearly only grown in strength since then. However, unlike my soldiers, you survived and you can learn from your defeat. He gestured at Sai and Maki. I offer the aid of Sai and Maki to travel with you during your expedition from Konoha. It would be far too dangerous for you to do this alone. Naruto frowned and turned to Sai. Were you aware of this? Sai nodded. And you're okay with coming with me? Once again Sai nodded, prompting Naruto to turn to Maki. Did you know of this too? Maki also nodded. Maki, you barely know me, are you sure it's best for you to come with me? Maki once again nodded. It is my mission, Naruto-senpai. And I believe it would be good to work with you again, that is if you will allow me to. Naruto sighed in resignation before nodding his agreement. Then it is best if I come with you. Naruto looked at all of the current operatives in the room looking at him and finally let off a sweat drop. If I say no, you're just going to send them anyway and have them shadow me, aren't you? Danzo didn't even try denying it. That is correct. As I've said and as you should be well aware of, you are far too valuable to the village to be left unguarded. Danzo sighed. Everyone except Naruto, please leave the room. All of the other operatives bowed to Danzo before making themselves scarce, leaving Naruto alone in the room with the man himself. The two spent a long time looking at each other before the old man spoke. I have never told you this personally as I am not one for compliments, and I have never had a chance to speak to you face to face since your incident, but I have to say, Naruto-kun, you are my greatest success as the leader of Root. Naruto looked around to make sure everyone was out of the room before he responded to that. Danzo Gigi, are you dying? Because you never told me that, ever, even when I was actually working and running missions for you. Danzo did something that Naruto would have sworn was the precursor to the apocalypse right at that moment. He laughed. He honestly laughed. It wasn't for very long, but it was too long to be deemed anything else. Not a chuckle or any other synonym that implied a slight amount of humor, but actual laughter. Naruto had to silently make a hand seal to dispel a genjutsu to make sure he hadn't been caught by Akatsuki and placed under a genjutsu to keep him docile. I am not dying, Naruto-kun, I can assure you of that. If the Chuchikage is still around these days, then I most certainly have plenty of time left, Danzo said, allowing his amusement to die down. It is true, however. You took to my training earnestly and kept your ability to fit into everyday situations outside of combat. He looked at the 15-year-old jounin. My original intent was to enter you in the academy once you returned from your mission to Odogekure, but fate had other plans. Still, you have turned out just as well as I could have ever imagined, even with the 4 years lost to you. Naruto didn't know what to say. This was the man that was responsible for his life being the way it was now, the original catalyst for everything that shaped his outlook as a ninja. His first actual role model. Naruto dropped to one knee and did something he had never done outside of business. "Thank you, Danzo-sama," he said earnestly while in a bow. He had never bowed to anyone else in his entire life. He even hated doing it for Danzo before this. But no matter what, without Danzo he really had no idea as to where he would have ended up as a ninja. Naruto did not lift his head until Danzo stood in front of him, one hand on his cane and one on the blonde's head. "Times are changing and becoming more and more tumultuous, Naruto-kun, you know this as well. Take care and prepare well. Sai and Maki will keep watch over you until you deem yourself fit to return. I have always been on your side." Amigakure no Sato, Pain's tower. Pain and all of his remaining bodies overlooked the remnants of Ame following the collective battles with Jiraiya and the one that caused more widespread destruction, Naruto. "You will not escape for long, Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Enjoy your freedom for as long as you can. Our business is far from done." Konan stood by the side of the body of Yahiko, looking at the village as well. The massive trench that was ripped through the greater part of the village from Naruto's Imari was seared into her memory. A Kawarimi with a paper clone and a shunshin away from Naruto's attack as fast as she could muster almost wasn't enough to escape it, as the shockwave of the attack's path blew her weightless paper body miles away from Ame. "You had to know it would come to this, trying to use me and the others as active weapons." Konan had never seen a Jinchuriki actually cause damage at this scale in public whenever attempts to capture them were made. The Ichibi Jinchuriki was never involved in a full-scale battle with any Akatsuki force. The Nibi caused quite a bit of damage, but nothing on the scale that Naruto did. The Nanabi Jinchuriki barely fought back at all, as if she didn't care one way or the other. The Gobi Jinchuriki barely used his Biju's power except for his steam-based ninjutsu, and that fight took place in the mountainous range landscape of Tsuchi no Kuni. The Yambi Jinchuriki was a very skilled, experienced shinobi that had managed to gain enough control over his respective Biju to use lava release. But again, this person was nowhere near any populated areas when they were captured, nor did they directly activate a demonic form during the battle. The Rokubi was ambushed and quickly taken down with little trouble. And the Sanbai was captured on the water, away from land. The point was, even though Jinchuriki were used as secret weapons in wars for years, even though it was the goal of Akatsuki to capture the Biju, even though they knew of each Jinchuriki that were still in existence with their Biju, Naruto Uzumaki, Sabaka no Gara, Yujitoni, and Kirabi of Kumagakure, they had never faced one that was willing to actually use a wide-scale attack in the middle of any city before. She had never seen the actual destruction a motivated Jinchuriki could cause. "Your little master plan isn't so good when it's being practiced on you, is it?" This is what the end result was supposed to be. Konan thought to herself, no. The real thing is supposed to be far worse than this. And the thought of that is chilling. Konan's original goal alongside Yahiko and Nagato was to bring peace to Ame. And they had actually done it. It took years, it cost Yahiko his life, but eventually it was done. When did it stretch to doing so with the world? When did the end result of the master plan turn to be so destructive? It occurred the day Yahiko died. The day Nagato changed his name. The day Pain was born. "Konan." Pain's voice got her attention. "We will remain here until I have prepared the new body for my animal path. Then we will begin the hunt for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in earnest. Until then, send word to the remaining members to keep their eyes open for him, and do not hesitate to engage him." "As you wish, Nagato," Konan said, walking deeper into the tower as the bodies of Pain continued looking out at Ame. "Can peace be achieved this way? And if so, how many lives will be lost like this in the process? With the weapons in the hands of every nation, how many times will it be used? Will there be anyone left to actually exist peacefully with?" Kanahigakure no Sato, Konoha Hospital. "Is that brat insane?" was the roar that echoed through the building out onto the streets from the one woman everyone in the village had heard yell at least once, Tsunade. "He expects me to just leave him alone by himself with Akatsuki out there?" Tsunade expressed nothing but relief when Jiraiya was found to be alive and quickly rushed him to the hospital where he was swiftly admitted and treated, and then she actually listened to what Fukasaku had reported to her from Naruto. Needless to say, she was not very pleased. "Instead of staying here where we can protect him, he's staying out there where he's in jeopardy." Fukasaku didn't respond to the Slug Princess's anger over the matter, he simply conveyed Naruto's message back to her. "He thinks it's the right thing to do, all things considered. He doesn't want Pain looking here for him before he's ready to handle the man himself, and I think it's between you and him. But the young'un said to tell you when you got all twisted up about this that he was continuing an ongoing mission that you gave him, and he never finished." Tsunade looked at the toad strangely until realization hit her. "Oh, that sneaky little..." He was talking about the mission with Jiraiya to see if Kuma would assist them against the threat of the Akatsuki. The original intention was to venture to all of the 5 great nations, or any place that would be willing to assist. It was something for Jiraiya to get Naruto out of the village with for about a month, but the attack from Hidan and Kakuza put a wrench in that plan and cut it short. However, Tsunade had never officially closed the mission. It was still open, Naruto knew it, and as far as it went with him, he might as well have been on something akin to Jiraiya's long-term information-gathering mission with the freedom the parameters of that mission granted him. Damn, that was good. She looked at Fukasaku with half-lidded eyes. I don't suppose he told you where he was going so that I could send a team to intercept, or at least assist him? Fukasaku grinned at Tsunade. There was something about that kid Naruto that he was sincerely starting to like. Nope. I don't even rightly know where you got Ma to summon me from, to tell you the truth, so I'm no help there either. As the tick marks formed on Tsunade's head, he realized what it was. That little tadpole is just as gutsy as Jiraiya-chan. Half as crazy too. A series of weak, strained laughs came from Jiraiya's bed. Tsunade turned to the injured man who, even hooked up to so many machines, was still smirking at her for Naruto getting one over on her. Oh, shut up, you pervert. Keep laughing and I'm going to get you better just so I can beat you up and put you back in here. Due to his inability to speak, Jiraiya weakly lifted his one arm, pointed at Tsunade, drew a heart in the air with his hand, and pointed back at himself. Tsunade gave him a small smile. Doesn't mean I still don't want to kick your ass for worrying me. Fukasaku cut in between the two old teammates. I should let Jiraiya-chan get his rest, but the second he's able I want him to summon me. We have a lot to go over, about Pain, about his student, and about how we're going to get his student ready. Jiraiya nodded slightly, but firmly. I think you should let the boy be for now, Tsunade. He's no fool. This is something he feels he has to do. Kawa no Kuni, hidden root base. Naruto walked to the exit of the root base, flanked by Sai and Maki as he was outfitted in root gear similar to theirs. He wore the high-collared zip-up root shirt that cut off at his midriff with no sleeves and a pair of black gloves on his hands. He had his left arm taped up to the shoulder, and his right arm exposing his correspondence tattoo with Hamiko. He had on black pants that once they reached his shins bunched up into a pair of white greaves that guarded that part of his legs above his black shinobi sandals. His sword was still on his back and his height was still prominent on his forehead, but he also had a plain white mask attached to his hip. He looked at the members of Root that stopped in the middle of their own activities as they passed him in the hall and bowed to him. Why are they bowing to me? A lot of them shouldn't even know who I am. Maki looked at him with no discernible expression. Why should they not bow to the man that is to become Hokage? Especially when he is one of us. Naruto gave her a deadpan look but refrained from speaking as they exited the base that Naruto found to be set in a groove in the wall of a river canyon. The 3 shinobi made their way out of the canyon and stopped in the middle of the surrounding forest, Sai looking to Naruto expectantly, Maki doing the same. Where are we going, Naruto-senpai? He asked. Naruto sighed. Until Erokyofu is well enough to find me and help me with my strategy against Pain, I can't sit on my hands and wait for him to come to me. I need to find out how to better control the Kyuubi's chakra. I never had a chance to speak on it with other Jinchuriki before, so we're going to do that. First to Suna, then to Kiri, then to Kumo. Those places should have the information I need to figure this out. Sai nodded and pulled out his drawing scroll when Naruto stayed his hand, confusing him. What's wrong? Naruto explained his reaction. We shouldn't travel conspicuously. We're trying to divert attention away from us so we can move freely. Flying would be faster, but we'd be easy prey. Maki moved to speak. Naruto-senpai, you're still hurt. If Sai-senpai creates an ink bird for us to travel with, you can rest and recover faster. Naruto shook his head. Maki, that would put too much attention on us. Suna is a day's trip from here on foot if we move the way we should. Seeing that neither of them were giving off any sort of reaction to what he was saying, he rolled his eyes. If you see me slowing down because of my injuries, you have permission to stop me and do things your way until we get to Suna, okay? Yes, senpai, was the unilateral response from both Sai and Maki. Naruto looked at them both before shaking his head and walking along, motioning for them to follow. I am going to work some personality into you both before I go back to Konoha, I swear. Let's get moving. Maki's eyes narrowed on Naruto's back, taking offense to his comment on her personality, as she and Sai followed. I have personality, Naruto-senpai. Naruto let out a short laugh. Yeah, I guess since I've seen you again you've said more to me than you did in almost 3 years when we were kids, but your personality is only mildly better than Psycho High's. He turned around and looked at Sai's dull expression before turning to Maki, who had one that was much the same, but there was a spark of annoyance in her eyes that she couldn't hide. It's a work in progress. Now come on. Let's get to Suna before my luck runs out again. With that, they all took off into the trees, heading west towards Sunagakure. Unknown location, Otogakure Base. Sasuke sat alone in the middle of a training room. The defeated bodies of multiple Oto shinobi laying around. I know how to find you, Itachi, he said to himself, breathing in mild exhaustion as he caught his breath from his most recent training session. I know that you're looking for the Jinchuriki of the world for your own goals. All I have to do is capture them myself and wait for you to come to me. Sasuke clenched his fist as lightning chakra circulated through it. Orochimaru can't stop me. You won't stop me. Nothing will stop me. You can't hide from me forever. It's almost time for me to find you and take my revenge. Just wait a little while longer, Itachi. The curse seal spread across his face and entire body. Just wait a little while longer and I promise you, your life will be mine. Chapter 41, The Seeds of the Root. Kaze no Kuni, Team Naruto. A group of 3 lightly cloaked figures wandered through the desert heading towards the hidden village in the unforgiving terrain. A bastion of relief for the travelers that they moved towards quickly to get out of the sun. Why are we wearing this extra equipment if we're running Naruto-senpai? Sai asked curiously as he and Maki followed behind the blonde leader, keeping pace with him. Because Psycho High. Naruto began to explain. Oh, I don't really need it, you most definitely do. Have you looked in a mirror lately? You're as white as the paper you draw on. If you're out in this sun for even an hour you're going to be lobster red, and I don't need you losing any fights we get into because of your nasty sunburn. Maki looked over at her 2 superiors before speaking her own mind. What about me, Naruto-senpai? I'm not as pale as Sai-senpai is and I'm still wearing a cloak too. Naruto grinned at her. Well, there's no way I'm letting the female member of our little group chance getting sunburned. You're too pretty to get that complexion all beat up by the sun, Maki. His grin dropped as he saw the domed structure of Sunagakure coming into sight. Okay, be cool. You guys are both registered, right? I know Sai is, but how about you, Maki? Maki nodded. Yes, senpai, I'm a registered Konoha ninja, number 920018. Should I put on my Hideate now? Yes, that would be best at least for now, Naruto said as he saw Maki retrieve the accessory and tie it around her neck. Gaara may trust me, but we're still foreign ninja and you all need to be identified as Konoha ninja lest we look way more suspicious than we already do. The only bad thing is if this gets back to Tsunade-ba-chan. She's going to wonder where I got you two from. Sai gave him his smile. No, she shouldn't look too much into it, senpai. Danzo-sama has worked out a deal that places me as your usual teammate in order to protect you. I am sure he has or will explain Maki the same way. Naruto returned the smile with one of his own as he looked at his 2 subordinates. We're golden then. Alright, get ready for some scrutinizing looks. Don't attract a ruckus, and remember to get some rest and get your materials together quickly for in case of Akatsuki attack or if we have to leave suddenly. The smile he shot back at them actually put a small one on Maki's face. Don't cause a ruckus, Naruto-senpai? That doesn't sound like you. I remember during that mission we had to that noble's mansion in Kuminari no Kuni when you dashed. Okay, Maki. Naruto replied rather disgruntled at the turn of the conversation as he turned forward with narrowed eyes. I don't need you reminding me of how I got out of there. I remember. I was there. And you didn't help me either, so you don't get to judge my robbery plan when you didn't even have a part in it. As you wish, senpai. Maki replied automatically to stanch his ire, but looking at her face he could see the mirth in her eyes. She really did miss having him back. But that also meant that she was going to take to razzing him every now and then. Putting the thought out of his mind, Naruto focused on the mission. She could do what she wanted as long as she knew how to work. Besides, talking to someone that would answer back with some bite every now and then was way better than getting Sai's monotonic responses. He might be able to take the edge off and have some fun verbally sparring with her. It didn't really hurt that she was rather cute too. Kami, how did he not notice she was a girl? He must have missed a few remedial detail noticing lectures back in the day. Kanahigakure no Sato, Konoha Hospital. Tsunade had been periodically checking on Jiraiya ever since he had been admitted to the hospital. He was out of critical condition, but he had still suffered grievous wounds that required him to remain in the hospital. Breathing on his own was still a horrible chore due to the injuries to the throat that he had suffered at the hands of Pain, forcing him to remain hooked up to a machine to assist him with the necessary process, as well as an apparatus to provide him with nutrition due to his inability to even properly swallow food. That wasn't even mentioning his most glaring injury that would hinder him forever, his missing left arm that had been severed at the shoulder. She walked through her teammate's room, engaging him in conversation during some downtime in her daily schedule. So you have no idea where the brat is going either? She asked Jiraiya while adjusting his blinds for him. She turned to face him and saw him shake his head in the negative. Both of you weren't enough to take down this pain person? Jiraiya shook his head and looked at her as if he wanted to say more, prompting a frown to grace the Godaima Hokage's features. I need to get you something to write with until you can speak again. She looked outside of the window. It's been 3 days since you were brought back. Do you even have any idea what he's out there to do? Jiraiya again shook his head, wishing he could speak to Tsunade, but in his current condition that was impossible. His apprentice had taken it upon himself to stay away from Konoha for the time being and leave himself surrounded by the wolves of the Akatsuki. He needed to be able to somehow tell Tsunade all that he had seen, and what he had learned about pain. He needed to find Naruto, and start getting him ready for an inevitable second encounter with pain. He needed to do all of these things, but he simply couldn't because he was stuck in this damned hospital bed for the time being. Tsunade let out a sigh. Well, if anything comes up we can still speak with him through Hamiko if the need arises. We're going to have you up and at M in no time, you old goat, she said with a smile. I still need you around here, you aren't getting off that easily. So Naruto isn't coming back, a voice said with a sigh from the entrance of the room. Eyes turned there to see Kakashi leaning against the door frame. Do you want to send someone after him? If so, I'm volunteering. Tsunade shook her head. No, the brat isn't deserting, he's just taking advantage of a loophole. She let out a small laugh. I guess he did deserve a real vacation after all anyway. But no, I'm not going to send anyone after him. He'll come back when he finds what he wants. I'll be sending out the pervert to go find him when he's all healed up anyway. Kakashi gave her a nice smile. Well, in that case, I volunteered to escort Jiraiya-sama when he goes looking for him. Tsunade nodded to him, getting Kakashi to give a thumbs up. Great! When it's time to go, give me a call and I'll be right there. Jiraiya let out a muffled laugh as Tsunade rolled her eyes. You'll be there 3 hours late like always. She put her hands on her hips. I'll inform you on when Jiraiya will be ready to leave. All right then, Kakashi said, pulling out his Ika Ika book and turning to leave. In the meantime, I have to lay low and duck the inevitable stream of questions that will follow everyone learning that the kid isn't dead and keep the fact that I'll be looking for him soon to myself. Until then. He gave a wave and disappeared from the doorway in a puff of smoke. Sunagakure no Sato, village streets. Naruto led his 2 companions through Suna's streets when Sai tapped him discreetly. We're being watched, senpai, he said quietly. We're foreign and we didn't sneak in, Sai. Naruto responded back to him. Of course they're going to watch us. Does it matter? Are you supposed to be doing anything illegal while you're here? Sai shook his head. Our only objectives are to keep you safe, Naruto-senpai. Other than that, we have no other mission parameters to adhere to. Danzo-sama was very lenient with the orders upon handing us this mission. Naruto nodded and looked at the female member of the team. Maki, remind me to fight you later to get a picture of what you can do. I know you're a good medic, which is good because I think we're going to need you sooner or later. Maki nodded to him and looked around. What's the matter? We may be allies, but this village tried to destroy Konoha 3 years ago, senpai. Maki said softly so as not to alert any of the shinobi or villagers around them. The current Kazekage tried to kill you. How do you trust him? Naruto smiled at Maki. I beat him and showed him that simply existing to kill everyone wasn't the way to be strong. I told him that I fought for Konoha. Well, he must have taken that to heart. He looked towards the Kazekage tower and continued to lead his group. Let's see if Gaara can help me out with this. I need more knockout power if I'm going to fight Pain. Maki followed the leader of the hastily assembled team dutifully. This Pain, what is he like? Do you know what he can do in battle? Naruto shook his head. I don't know. There were 6 of him and they beat the piss out of me, and those eyes. Kyubi called them Rinnegan and it seemed really freaked out by them. I need to have a little chat with it when I get the chance. Well, there you are. Naruto and company looked up on a nearby roof to see Kankuro grinning down at him. Gaara heard you were in the village and sent me to escort you the rest of the way to his office. What, you don't know how to let someone know you're coming? Naruto shook his head. It was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. Kankuro jumped down to the ground and shook hands with Naruto. It's good to see you again. How's your family? He asked as Kankuro began leading them through the streets to the tower. Kankuro let out a chuckle. Well, he's Gaara. I don't really know how to specify any better than that. Temari just got back from Konoha on another diplomatic mission and she's pissed at you again. I had a mission, Naruto said, sweat dropping at knowing how much Temari disliked looking for him and not finding him. How can she be mad at me for that? Kankuro's laughter grew more pronounced. No, she's not pissed at you for that. She's pissed because she heard that you had gotten killed and then heard that you had just disappeared and weren't coming back to Konoha. As a matter of fact, she didn't get here that much sooner than you did, so you have. Kankuro looked at the position of the sun. You have 4 hours until she wakes up from her nap after getting back to come up with a good defense. Naruto's face had a downcast look. Believe me, I had a very good reason as to why those things happened. I need to talk to Gaara about it though. You can listen up when you get us there because you should know too. Kankuro noticed the serious tone and look on Naruto's face and realized whatever he had to talk to Gaara about had to be something of a big deal. So who are these guys with you? He said, looking at Naruto's cloaked escorts. Naruto looked back at them and gestured for them to put their hoods down. The guy is named Sai, the girl's name is Maki. They're my team while I'm on this little mission of mine, he said, settling into a comfortable silence that left him alone with his thoughts. I need more control over Kyuubi's power, and not just with the use of the trigger. It's a shortcut that does more harm than good in the long run. He heard the Kyuubi cackle inside of his mind. You call the trigger a shortcut that does more harm than good, but you should know that you're the only Jinchuriki that has ever used my chakra to this extent. Feel proud to have made it this far. The last two before you were unwilling to use my power the way you have. Bullshit. Naruto said in his head as the entrance to Gaara's daily place of work came into sight. You've told me that you had other containers before. You're saying that I'm the only one that's used you? No. Others have tried. Kyuubi corrected him. My first Jinchuriki used the bare minimum of my chakra, barely enough to use a single tail. The second one was much the same. She couldn't go past 4 tails either without losing control. No one else ever tried figuring out a way to fully control me. Maybe I need more access to the chakra. Naruto thought to himself. It got easier to access when Aerokyofu loosened the seal and I eventually got control over it. Maybe if I can do it again I can get access to more and learn how to control it. Naruto decided to run this thought by someone else when he channeled chakra to his correspondence tattoo with Hamiko. His answer came quickly and angrily if the pulsing intensity from his arm was any indication. So stupid! Even if you were advanced enough to deal with the workings of the seal, opening it would be bad. Unless you think you can fight and beat the demon right now. Naruto frowned at the response, but figured she had to know what she was talking about. For over a year her favorite thing to do was ask him questions about, and study the seal on his belly. I can't even loosen it to access more? It's not supposed to be loosened, only tightened in case it ever started influencing you. When Jiraiya-sama did that to allow you more access, he just made it easier for the demon to control you. Hamiko returned to him. It doesn't matter. You can't do it on your own even with me instructing you on what to do. You need a certain key to the seal that I can't duplicate. Your father was brilliant, Naruto-sama. Naruto decided to break conversation as they entered Gaara's office. Okay, thank you Hamiko-chan. I'll talk to you soon, okay? I am at your service, Naruto-sama. I'll see if Jiraiya-sama knows anything more of your seal when I get the chance. Be safe. With that, their connection was broken just as Naruto stood face to face with Gaara, wearing his Kazekage robes. Naruto, it is good to see you, Gaara said in his usual monotone. You had many people in Konoha and even here fearing for your safety, including myself. He crossed his hands over one another and set them on his desk in a businesslike manner. How have things been? Placing his hands in his pockets, Naruto began to speak to the red-haired fellow Jinchuriki. I wish I could say that things are good, but I'd be lying to you and we don't need that. I just got a serious wake-up call and I need your help, Gaara. Gaara didn't let the surprise show on his face, but hearing Naruto ask for his help caught him off guard. Even though they were friends, hidden villages rarely asked for help from one another. However, Gaara didn't believe that this was an official order. Something more of a personal request, and as long as it didn't put his village in jeopardy he would gladly help Naruto out. What is it that you need? Naruto decided to get straight to the heart of the matter, no need beating around the bush. I'll just say it. 3 years ago you were more or less insane, no offense. None taken, Gaara replied. I am not very proud of that chapter of my life, but it did happen and I cannot simply pretend it didn't exist. Nodding at Gaara's point, Naruto continued. I didn't bring that up to just talk about it, it's just to make a point. You used to be the worst-case scenario for a Jinchuriki and now you're the Kazekage. To do that you needed the trust of a vast majority of your village, and to do that you had to prove that you were no longer under the will of the Ichibi. He took a deep breath and finished verbalizing his thought. I want to know how you got full control of Ichibi no Shikaku. Kankuro looked from Naruto to his brother as Gaara simply stared at the foreign blonde before giving him his answer. I can't do that, Naruto. Naruto let out a sigh. Village secret? Fine, that's alright. It was worth a shot. Thanks anyway for at least hearing me out. No, Naruto, he really can't, Kankuro said, stopping him. He's not saying that because it's some huge advantage for Suna, he really can't. The raised eyebrow of Naruto pressed Gaara to address his confusion. I do not have full control of Shikaku. Though I can suppress it once I begin, if I use either of the forms I used against you during the invasion of Konoha, Shikaku's will become more dominant, and the chance of me causing damage to innocents, and those that I intend to keep safe. Now I can use parts of Shikaku's limbs to attack, but I do not have control of my demon. I'd call that control, Naruto replied glumly. And you can go all out with it if you have to, I can't. How did you do it? Gaara thought about it for a moment. The seal that keeps the demon inside of me is more closely knit to my own person than yours, as I would wager. After all, the demon was sealed within me months before I was even born. You told me it was put in you afterwards. It is still a rather foreign entity within you as opposed to me, as it truly always has been there. Naruto nodded in understanding. So how did you beat the Ichibi for control? Gaara closed his eyes thoughtfully. I often had to battle the Ichibi to force it from my psyche, to keep it from constantly trying to influence my thoughts. A deadpan look came over Naruto's face. You're talking about hypothetically fighting it, aren't you? Like willing it out of your mind? Gaara blinked in confusion but nodded nonetheless. Damn, I was talking about literally fighting it. I'm going to have to open the seal and fight the Kyuubi to get full control. An uncomfortable silence settled over the room until Kankuro voiced the thoughts of both him and his brother, and even Naruto's rude comrades at the moment. Well, that sucks. Gaara picked up where his brother had so eloquently left off. I'm sorry I cannot be of more help to you, Naruto. Why did you even decide to seek me out anyway? Naruto sighed and put his arms up behind his head. For 3 reasons. 1. I can't go home, not as I am. That would be a requiem for an ass-kicking after what I just got through doing. 2. All of the other major hidden villages have their own Jinchuriki. I figured that Suna would be one of the ones that had a good handle on how to train theirs. Clearly I was wrong because you did it all on your own. The 3rd reason was to warn you. Warn me? Gaara said. Warn me of what? Naruto gave him a serious look. Warn you about the man that beat me and Jiraiya at the very same time. Not just beat us, he destroyed us. It was as if he was barely trying. The leader of Akatsuki, Pain. He saw the looks of shock on Gaara and Kankuro's faces at hearing that Jiraiya had been destroyed while Naruto had been there to assist. He has 6 bodies, all of them strong. I don't know too much more, but I swear, when I do you're going to be the first to know, Gaara. You're still just as much a target as me, be prepared. Gaara nodded. I will be Naruto. I am not the Kazekage for nothing, and I will begin training in preparation for an attack from the Akatsuki. You are free to stay here before leaving. Where are you going next? East. Naruto replied. Far east, back through Hino Kuni. We'll stay the night and leave tomorrow morning. Thank you, Gaara. After that point, Kankuro led Naruto and company through his own family's lodgings to give them a place to shack up in for the night. Sai moved closer to the blonde leader and spoke. We're going to be heading back through Hino Kuni, Naruto-senpai. Is that a good idea? Naruto shrugged. Why not? We have to if we're going to get to either Mizu no Kuni or Kaminari no Kuni. We'll keep to the south to stay far away from Konoha and out of their view. You guys can get through a country unnoticed, can't you? The path taken through the house of the powerful siblings began seeming familiar to Naruto when Kankuro suddenly called out. Temari! Hey sis, I'm back. He turned with a grin on his face once he saw the wheels in Naruto's head begin to turn. Come on, you've got to be awake by now. I'm up, Kankuro. Temari replied from behind the door. What's the matter? Nothing's the matter, he said cryptically. I just thought there would be someone out here that you would want to see. He saw Naruto turn around on his heel to run and with a quick movement of his fingertips, tripped Naruto with a chakra string. Ah, deja vu. The day we met. The puppeteer thought fondly. Kankuro, don't do this, Naruto said swiftly, pulling himself to his feet. I gave you Sasori's extra bodies. That gave the puppeteer some pause, but before he could say anything the door cracked open to reveal the curious face of Temari, who looked out at the hall before settling on Naruto. Hey Temari-chan. How have you been the last few months? Temari's door slowly opened wider, putting the young woman completely in the doorway, where she then put her hands on her hips and waited expectantly. You need to have a damn good excuse as to why you didn't go back to Konoha after what I heard happened to you and Jiraiya-sama. Naruto looked at his team. Go with Kankuro to the room, I'll catch up with you in a minute. He looked at Temari. Yes, as a matter of fact I do. Can I come in? I've wanted to talk to you for a while anyway. He said. She smiled at him and moved aside, allowing him to enter her room and close the door. Kankuro shook his head with a smirk and continued leading the two root ninja through his house. I should be pissed about what my sister is going to do to that guy, but I just can't bring myself to hate him. He's just too good of a guy for as long as I've known him. Sai looked at Kankuro. Naruto-senpai and Temari-san are in a relationship? Kankuro stroked his chin in thought. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I will say that aside from the climate, the guy is half the reason she likes going to Konoha so much though. One time she came back with the biggest smile on her face that traveling all that way shouldn't have given her, and asking about the kid got a bigger one out of her. Sai's face never changed expressions even when he comprehended what he was being told. So Senpai and Temari-san are going to dash? Probably, Kankuro said with a distasteful expression. Could we just not talk about it? Even though I'm okay with it, she's still my sister. It's gross. He looked at both Sai and Maki. Like, how would you like it if I started talking about how hot your little sister here is? Come on, dude, it's just not appropriate. Sai looked at Maki and then back to Kankuro. I don't see what relation has to do with the attractiveness of one's sibling. Besides, Maki is not my sister, she's my teammate on this mission, same as Naruto-senpai. Kankuro looked at Maki for a moment and turned back forward, shaking his head. No, she's not. That girl isn't anything close to being similar to Naruto. Sai gave Kankuro a pleasant smile. Whatever you say, make-up boy. As Kankuro fumed at the fact that Naruto's teammate had a smartass attitude, Maki frowned at the thought of Naruto having relations of a physical nature with a foreign kunoichi. What if she's been able to seduce secrets out of senpai? She apparently does this every so often, so why else would she? I need to have a talk with him later about this, she thought determinedly to herself. The next day, gates of Sunagakure. Naruto and his two teammates stood at the outskirts of the village as Kankuro and Temari stood with them to bid them farewell. Temari frowned and gave Naruto a hug. I wish you could stay for longer this time, but with what you told me last night, you're right, you need to keep moving. Yes, I'm sure you wish he could stay, Kankuro said, grinning until Temari took her fan off of her back and brandished it threateningly, getting her brother to back off, holding his hands up defensively. When she turned away to leave him alone, he gave thumbs up to Naruto. You see? Every time she's around you, she calms down. You should move to Suna. He didn't escape Temari's wrath twice, as this time she caught him right on top of the head with her makeshift club. Temari sneered down at her pleasantly unconscious brother before looking up at Naruto and crew. It was good to have you here again, Naruto-kun. I'll bet it was. Another stomp to her smart aleck brother silenced him and let her continue speaking. You really should be at home in Konoha more often. I don't think any ninja cuts the pace that you do with work. Naruto shifted the sword around on his back. There's a lot for me to do, Temari-chan. I've got to find a way to put this pain guy down, and I can't do it training in Konoha. Even the new jutsu you helped me finish the last time we were together wouldn't have done a thing. Did you use that? She asked him dangerously, getting Naruto to frantically shake his head no. Good, because you know it tears your arm apart. Just be careful out there. She gave him a small smile. I don't think I can convince you to let me go ask Gaara to send you off with an escort, could I? Sai and Maki are more than enough, Temari-chan, Naruto said, putting a hand on her cheek. It's going to be fine, just worry about keeping Gaara and your tactless brother in line, okay? He gave her a kiss and turned, motioning to the others to follow him. As his figure grew smaller and smaller on the horizon before finally disappearing in the hazy lines of the desert, Temari let out a sigh that the now standing Kankuro rolled his eyes at. And here we go again with your hangdog look as you watch him leave. For the love of Kami, why don't you just tell the guy that you're in love with him already? You've had sex like 3ti-. Once again he was cut off with a shot from Temari's fan, who didn't have her heart in it from the frown on her face. Shut up, Kankuro. 3 days later, undisclosed location, Orochimaru's base. Sasuke walked into the lab of the base and looked around. Noting that no one was there, he walked over to a massive vat of water that he immediately slashed open with the sword on his person, letting it spill out onto the ground. The water quickly began to take a human form, the form of a teen boy with white hair, purple eyes, and shark-like teeth. Ugh, not that I'm not happy to be out of that vat, but what do you want, Sasuke? I'm taking out Orochimaru and you're coming with me, Sasuke said plainly. Of course you could always turn me down, and I'll put you back in that tank to be experimented on. The choice is your Suigetsu. Suigetsu stroked his chin in thought. Go with you and get back at the asshole that put me here in the first place, as well as get the chance to actually start looking for the swords, or stay here and let Orochimaru's favorite ass slave keep poking and prodding at me? He gave Sasuke a toothy grin. Get me some clothes and you've got yourself a running mate for the time being. Sasuke threw him some clothes and began walking away. Hurry up and get dressed. We're doing this now. Suigetsu looked at back of the retreating Uchiha and shrugged before beginning to get dressed. And if you see Kabuto wandering about any time before we get to Orochimaru, feel free to show him how much you appreciated all of the hospitality. Suigetsu let a feral smirk cross his features. I have a feeling that this is going to work out just fine. With Naruto and company, somewhere in Hai no Kuni. In the middle of a forest, Naruto stood waiting in place while Sai sat on a tree branch above, using his free time to draw for a little while as long as he had the time to take a break. Naruto had his eyes scanning the trees around him, trying to find any sign of their third squad member. She's rather good at keeping herself out of view. That's a good trait for a medic need to have. Alright Maki, now let's see how you fight. The sound of a beautiful voice singing filled the area and quickly reached the ears of Naruto and Sai, who somehow found their eyes starting to grow heavier. Sai quickly noted what was happening and was able to categorize it. Kikoku no Yuta, Song of the Siren. Let's see how Naruto-senpai is able to deal with this. Naruto grit his teeth as he began feeling drowsy. This was the kind of genjutsu that the Kyuubi had trouble dispelling for him the most, ones that had to do with his hearing. Did she know that about him? No one knew that about him. Naruto pulled out his sword and a kunai and began grinding the two blades against one another to produce a horrible noise that broke Maki's control over him. A flurry of shuriken flew from a hidden position and forced Naruto to throw his kunai at them to block as well as use his sword to deflect them. Even so, one still managed to nick his shoulder. Son of a bitch. She can do Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Shadow Shuriken Jutsu? Sneaky wench. A kunai flew from the woods coming straight for his head that he batted from the sky. However, when he moved to swing at it, a glare from the weapon caught him right in the eyes. It didn't initially stun Naruto, but once a figure that he had designated as Maki flew from the underbrush at him, he couldn't focus his eyes on her directly, lest his vision be filled with an intense light that kept him from keeping his eyes on her. Hearing her draw her tanto from the scabbard gave him all of the warning he needed to get his ninjato from his sheath on his back and block before directing a retaliatory swipe at the girl he couldn't look right at. Her genjutsu skills are centered around the parts that I'm not good at dispelling. They aren't so much along the lines of being physical as they're more perceptive. They don't alter reality, they alter my own perspective. Kyuubi can help me with these. I know how to fight you, Naruto-senpai. That's right, keep talking, sweetie. Naruto thought to himself as he blocked another attack from her sword and shoved her off. Give me an idea of where you are and I'll only need one shot to finish you. I watched you train and work for years. My own style of combat is meant to support your weaknesses, Maki said as she bypassed Naruto's guard after he blocked her slash and punched him in the face. You are more of a juggernaut, meant to destroy your opponents in one shot. I am more subtle. Before she could move in with another slash attempt, she wound up getting kicked right in the body and sent flying by his one-hit power she had been referencing. That's enough, Maki, Naruto said as he walked over to her with his eyes closed. I know what you can do now. And I hope that the you talking to me thing was just because this was a spar and not a real fight. Maki picked herself up and muttered kai to return Naruto's vision to him. Yes, Naruto-senpai, but it was mostly because I know you. Still, habits like that translate over into combat as well. I will work on that. She rubbed the place where Naruto kicked her and winced slightly. It really is good to see you fight more accurately towards the way you used to again. There was a time where I wanted to beat the old Naruto-senpai out of you. Naruto gave her a puzzled look. What? Beat the old me out of me? But you've only seen me like this or when I was en route. Maki shook her head and activated Shaozen Jutsu, Mystical Palm Jutsu, to heal the small injury that Naruto inflicted on her while she kept talking. Actually, I've been there all along. When you were sealed, Danzo-sama had me keep watch over you in the academy. He put me in the same time as you and I even graduated with you. Naruto looked intently at Maki as she smiled up at him after she finished healing herself. Naruto walked around her a few times. I don't remember. Why don't I remember? Because I'm good at my job, senpai, she said, winking at him. I honestly tried to talk to you a few times, but you were obsessed with that Sakura girl all through school and kept getting held back after class, and that's when you weren't skipping, she said with a pronounced scowl on her face. Then Danzo-sama instructed me not to interact with you. He said that you wouldn't remember us anyway and would talk about it, maybe even to the Hokage. He really started paying attention to you once you were sealed. He put a hand on Maki's shoulder and gave it a reassuring squeeze. Well, now I'm here. You can talk to me all you want, okay? Maki gave him a bright smile in response. Naruto-senpai, Sai said as he stood up. We have company. The pale ninja drew his tanto from his back in preparation. Akatsuki? Maki asked, keeping her own tanto at the ready as she went back to back against Naruto, who had his own sword still out. Which one is it? An influx of information from Kage Bunshin sentries entered Naruto's head, Not Akatsuki, he said, answering her previous query. But there are around 9. 10, wow, really? There are like 21 of these guys. Sai jumped down and formed a tight triangle formation with the others. Who is it attacking us? If it isn't an agent of Akatsuki, could it be someone from Otogekure? You have a lot of enemies, Naruto-senpai. Naruto shook his head. Nope, not them either. An explosion echoed into the distance. And now it's not 21 anymore, it's just 17 now. Sai and Maki looked at him for clarification. Kekai Hojin, barrier encampment method. The sounds of people rushing through the forest around them got closer and closer. Get ready for a fight. A bunch of shinobi wearing demon masks, fully armed to the teeth and holding large kunai-like swords emerged all around Naruto, Sai, and Maki. Sai looked around, trying to gauge the current threat level. Who are these people? He asked hypothetically, not expecting to get an answer, especially not from both of his teammates at the same time. Prajna group. Naruto and Maki both said before looking at each other and nodding in agreement. Naruto decided to take the moment to explain to his hapless third colleague. Yami and Maki were among the root agents that Danzojiji dispatched to take out a whole regiment of these guys back in the day. Naruto blinked and looked at the female of the team. Damn it, that means we failed that mission, doesn't it? That depends, Maki said thoughtfully. It depends on whether or not these are the last of them or not. If it is, then we can finish the mission right now. Sai understood. So they're here for revenge. To simply kill us or use us to locate Danzo-sama. He shook his head. It wouldn't matter anyway. He never comes out into the open, so unless they're willing to infiltrate Konoha to look for him, they'll never find him. Naruto cracked his neck. Yeah, well, tell them that after they're done trying to kill us, and hurry up. I'd like to finish this up and get moving again, and no explosions, please. You just used explosives about 2 minutes ago, Naruto-senpai. Maki supplied with a smirk. Naruto looked at the ninja surrounding them with a twitching eye. Maki, I miss you and I love you, so I'm not going to take out my aggression from that unnecessarily snide comment on you. That's what these guys are for. Undisclosed location, Orochimaru's base. Sasuke and Suigetsu had made their way through Orochimaru's base with no so much as a peep from any of Orochimaru's men, mostly because it was Sasuke, and no one was to touch Sasuke. It was maddening. He wondered how he would have ever gotten stronger if he hadn't been able to force Orochimaru to give him actual missions to test himself with. Suigetsu looked over at the raven-haired Avenger. So are you sure you can win? I mean, I don't care either way, because if this doesn't work, you're going to be a Sasuke trench coat for Orochimaru, and I'm going to be either dead or back in that vat, but you seem confident. Sasuke scoffed. He can't beat me. He's hiding it, but you can see that his body is breaking down. As he is, the Dobe could take him out. That's probably why he didn't attack him and the Kazekage when we had the chance in Suna. They reached a set of large doors. Stay out here. No one comes in until one of us comes out. Suigetsu looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? I mean, if we were both in there, we could have a better shot at putting him down with less of a fight. Sasuke put his hand up in front of the door and looked at Suigetsu coldly. No one comes in until one of us comes out. If I can't beat him, then all of this is meaningless and I'll never beat Itachi. Sasuke formed a beam of lightning in his hand and pointed it at the door, extending it and piercing through it. He then pulled out his sword and cut through the rest of the door before stepping inside, where he found Orochimaru in his bed, blocking the attack from Sasuke from hitting his vital spots. Orochimaru glared at Sasuke. I knew it would come to this. Sasuke simply looked at Orochimaru impassively. I don't have anything else to learn from you. And you won't be seeing any mercy from me, even if you beg for it. His curse seal began to spread over his body.